Do you want to spend the next 3 years struggling to sell AI t-shirts? I've been using AI image generators since 2022, created multiple bestsellers on Amazon, sold 10,000s of t-shirts designed with AI, and helped countless of my students blow up their sales too. But I don't want success selling AI shirts to take you 3 years. It can be done so much quicker, so I've taken everything that I've learned and put it in this video. I'm going to show you how I create AI designs that actually sell, how I make sure I don't get banned for breaking any rules, and how I generate top sellers with the most advanced tools and workflows. You're going to learn to be more productive and time efficient, to see mistakes you must avoid at any cost, how to come up with shirt ideas that are 10 times more interesting. You will master upscaling and removing difficult backgrounds, leverage AI to find the best niches, and how to make more money. I'm calling this the AI T-shirt Masterclass, and it's everything you need to finally create high-quality designs that actually sell. And in the first lesson, me and my sausage-shaped friend Milo show you some advanced ChatGPT techniques to create your next bestseller, even if you lack technical skills. Professor Dr. Milo helped me find 13 hacks for ChatGPT and its new 4.0 image generator, which will help you create best-selling t-shirt designs more easily. So the first tip is that you can now use very simple prompts like create a funny t-shirt design for a biker, and it will actually do a lot of the heavy lifting for you in terms of potentially adding a phrase, and it even removed the background right here. And this looks like a cool design, to be honest, and fueled by caffeine and gasoline also kind of rhymes. It's always good to cross niche with coffee, so I'm really impressed with this result right here. And by the way, I'm using the 03 model right here for all of these examples. It should also work with the GPT-4 one up there, but in terms of the image generation, it uses the same model anyway. It also takes more time to think through its result. That's why I quite like the 03 version. So that was really quick. It also explains a few things down here. If you're not sure what sort of design to create, this is a quick way to come up with ideas and actually get some visuals straight away too. Tip number 2 will help you improve your designs if you're struggling to create good-looking t-shirts. So I purposely designed a bad t-shirt right here. I love you very much, and asked chat, how could I improve this t-shirt design? Take note, you should probably say t-shirt design so it knows what this is for. Otherwise, it might give you suggestions that turn this into, a marketing design or something that is for a different product entirely. So it thought for 12 seconds and then gave me a ton of suggestions. And this is really handy because it tells you things like tighten the visual hierarchy, spot color the word berry, match the font essentially to the illustration, which is very true. The font doesn't look good in combination with that strawberry whatsoever. And this can help you in many ways. It can, first of all, teach you how to create better designs just by reading through this and kind of identifying where your mistakes were. But on top of that, and it even says mind the merged by Amazon tech specs here. That's pretty funny. It's got the right dimensions. But you can even ask it, once it's done with this, generate an improved version of this design, and it will do it for you straight away. And this is already without a background, so I pulled it into Kittle right here so you can compare, and that definitely looks a ton better than the original. There's definitely still other ways to lay this out, or maybe use the strawberry as part of some of the letters right here, but I think the improvement is very, very clear and easy to see. It's also easy to read. If I zoom out right here, the left-hand design looks kind of strange. The letters not very easy to digest, whereas on the right got obviously the focal point with berry right here and a very easy to read bold font. This is also a good tip if you've got existing sellers. This is something I've started doing. Designs that are already regularly selling for you, just throw them into ChatGPT and say, how could I improve this? Or is there a new way I could create this design, a new spin on it? And it can give you some suggestions on how to improve the design that's already working well for you, which is obviously good. So you can potentially get even more sales than you are getting already. Another thing the 4.0 image generator is really good at is changing the style of a design. So if you've got this as an example, very cartoony, kawaii themed, but you want a vintage version of it to appeal to a different target customer, then just say, change this t-shirt design into a vintage style on a white background, and there we go. It's done that. It looks very close to the original, very, very similar in terms of the layout and the graphics. The only thing I can quickly spot is that we've got a slightly different scripty font right here rather than that kind of bubbly handwritten one, and there's like one less heart shape. But besides that, it looks extremely similar, but it definitely has that vintage feel to it. So yeah, this is a really handy, quick tip to kind of repurpose your designs or recreate them for a different target customer. What's also been extremely useful for me is the ability to make changes to your design in terms of the layout, the phrase that's being used, or even the graphic independently of each other without really affecting the existing design much. And here's an example of a t-shirt design with a horse that says "Just a girl who loves horses." When it generated this, I didn't really like the fact that all of the text is stacked underneath the graphic. I wanted to have it split up more. So that's what I described down here. Change the text layout so that "Just a girl who" is above the horse and "loves horses" is below the horse. And then it regenerated this and changed the layout. I would have probably liked maybe this to be on one line, or "Just a girl who" to be in one line, so it's not as stretched out, but still it's listened to my command very, very directly. And if you wanted to have it even, more concrete, you could say "Just a girl who" on one line at the top of the horse, and same with this. So the more specific you are, the more likely you're going to get the result that you want. Next up, I said change the text to "Just a boy who loves horses" and make the color scheme more boyish. So I wanted essentially the same design, just in a boy version, without really changing much, and that's exactly what it did. Just a boy who loves horses. It's tinted it blue, but the layout, the graphic, it looks pretty much exactly the same. And then I also said keep the text the same, but put the horse graphic in front of a vintage sunset, just to see how we can swap out the graphic there. And it did that very effectively too. It has changed the layout here, which does kind of make sense because we've got a round vintage sunset now, and having that same layout that we had before would look very, very weird. So yeah, just a few examples to show you that you can make changes individually to certain design elements or aspects of your design without changing the rest, and therefore kind of make adjustments as you see fit with some very simple conversations. Tip number 5 is describing images as a t-shirt prompt. So if you found this design, for example, and you're not sure how to create a prompt or write a prompt for this kind of graphic, then just screenshot it, throw it into here and said, if you had to describe this image as a t-shirt design prompt, how would you do it? And then here we go. We've got a very detailed prompt that's come back from ChatGPT. And you can also make changes to the prompt without really having to write the text yourself or even copy this, because you could say, what if it were an owl instead of a wolf and more of a mountain scene inside the silhouette? So that's what I wanted to kind of change within the prompt without having to rewrite this entire long piece of text myself. So that's what it did right here. I rewrote that, put the owl in there, and changed the other aspects of this to different mountain range keywords. And then I also told it to generate that prompt that it just came up with, that new iteration. And there we go. I think that looks really cool. And it definitely has that original kind of style and vibe, but it's made the adjustments that I asked for. So really, really handy. You don't have to then also use ChatGPT 4.0 to generate the images. And the idea with obviously describing things as a prompt is you can then also take that prompt, run it through another tool, right? But I wanted to show you that workflow right here of then also changing the prompt and creating the graphic within ChatGPT. Another powerful way to utilize ChatGPT is to ask it to help you come up with ideas. So for example, I want to create some funny birthday t-shirt designs for a boy aged 3 to 8 years who loves trains. And do you have any ideas? And it comes up with a long list of ideas right here, not all of which are good. So there will definitely be some random stuff that's maybe not necessarily as funny as ChatGPT things. That's in the nature of AI, but I did see a few good ideas right here. For example, a cartoon engine puffing smoke that forms the number 3. So think having a train, a steam engine that has a smoke cloud with the number of the birthday in it. That would be really cool, or the number of the boy, the age of the boy. The other thing that I saw was this 7 and steaming, or steaming, which that made me think that we could have a phrase such as steaming into 3, steaming into 4, whatever the new year of the birthday boy is. Maybe that's something we could utilize as a phrase, because you'll often see graphics that are birthday themed for kids. If they're related to a vehicle, to an object, then there's some sort of verb associated with that object, with that vehicle, and that is mixed with the age, right? So for example, crushing it since 2020 is a common phrase for monster truck designs or birthday themed monster truck designs. And yeah, so that was my idea essentially after reading through this. You can find more ideas in this for sure, but that's just what stood out to me at a glance. It also gives design tips right here for the color palette, etc. And then I said, essentially, I told it my idea and what I wanted to do, and it gave some more info, and then we started to generate. And here we've got the first iteration of that, which didn't turn out perfect, to be honest. So this looks a lot like Thomas the Tank Engine to me. And I also put the text twice, but that's fine. As you learned in the last tip, you can easily iterate by just giving it a bit of feedback right here. And then we've already got a version that doesn't look like Thomas the Tank Engine anymore, and it's gotten rid of the text at the bottom. So yeah, I didn't get this to be exactly the way I wanted to, but I think it's definitely a good idea that I wouldn't have been able to come up with myself as easily. So asking it, giving it some specific direction of, that's the niche, this is the kind of person I want to target, and it's meant to be a birthday design or a funny design, a vintage design, should definitely help you come up with some new unique ideas. And then you can also have it quickly kind of mocked up or thrown together right here. Even if you don't use exactly what ChatGPT comes up with, you can still use that as a visual reference to then create a more specific design later if you're not happy with this result, for example. Tip number 7 is related to Milo. So I uploaded a photo of him right here and said, turn this dog into a detailed pencil hand drawing on a white background and add the word Milo in his script font. I wanted to have it kind of turned into art and a personalized feel. So in this case, I actually hit a temporary limit, which does happen. I'll show you some tips to get around this as well afterwards, but just so you know, you're not alone. It happens to me too. So I had to wait about 7 minutes, and then it came up with this sketch, which I think looks absolutely amazing. It's definitely hit Milo on the nail right there. Definitely looks a lot like him, very close to the image as well. It's written Milo out underneath very, very nicely. So this can be useful for many things, especially I think on Etsy if you want to offer personalized listings, whether that is print on demand products or digital downloads. This is a very advanced way to quickly turn a photo into an art piece, and you can obviously ask for different styles, right? If you want a cartoon themed image, you just ask for that instead of a detailed pencil hand drawing. So you can definitely get creative with this, and I'm really impressed with how good this result looks with Milo. And now one thing that you probably didn't realize is you can also have it generate multiple images for you one after another without interruption, without you having to tell it, now do the next one, now do the next one. So here's an example. I said generate these 3 prompts as individual images, and I gave it 3 very specific prompts right here, and then it started to think a little bit and went off. So this is the first design. I don't know why it pasted it twice, but then we've got the second one. As you can see, there's no interruption right here, no text from me, no response. I just carried on doing this. I had it open on a separate window, and after 2 or 3 minutes, it was done with the second and the third image as well. Here you can see the actual time it took, 4 minutes, 35 seconds, but I'll show you a faster method later on as well. But anyway, this is really handy because that way you don't have to keep chatting to it, and you can have it generate things in the background for you whilst you're doing a different task. Tip number 9 is combining 2 images and making them one. So in this example, I uploaded a dabbing astronaut and a Van Gogh style bear, and this is what chat came up with. I think it looks pretty damn cool, very unique and creative for sure. And if used properly, I'm pretty sure this method will help a lot of you come up with some very creative and unique t-shirt designs. And the only thing I didn't like right here is the kind of square format. I wanted it to be more portrait. So that's another thing you can do. You can say, change it to a 4x5 format as an example. And here we go. I think the end result looks pretty damn cool. So this next tip is going to help you out if you hit the rate limit. If chat tells you you have to wait 7 minutes or 20 minutes, few hours, whatever it is, you should be able to click on Sora up here, and that will open up an entirely new tab, and you should still be able to generate images in this. At least it's been working for me. They don't cancel each other out. This is meant for videos, but you can still create static images with it. So the way to do it is right here, you just paste your prompt, and then you've got a few options. So type, image, or video. You've got the ratio. So if you want more of a portrait t-shirt design format, you can choose that as well. And then you can also change how many versions. So you can have 2 images generated at the same time. It's pretty cool. You can also append an image reference with this plus symbol if you want to, and then just hit create image. This is also useful if you want to work on multiple projects at the same time, then you can have Sora open on one side and GPT on the other, and you'll be able to find your images right here in the My Media tab. So whilst that's running, let's paste another prompt into here. It does take a while, obviously, but as you can see, you can add multiple prompts and generations into the queue. And there we have it. That's the first result. We can click on this, take a closer look at the design. You can also edit the prompt and remix it at the bottom. And I think those are some really cool results. Let's see what the second one comes back with. And there we have it. That is ChatGPT 4.0's interpretation of the bear design with the Van Gogh style. The previous version that I showed you, that came out of Ideogram, but this looks pretty decent as well. Then if you want to download these designs, you just click on these three dots and you can hit download right here. What happens if you click select? Right, so you can have multiple selected and download them in bulk. I didn't know that, but yeah, hopefully a good tip right here to speed up your workflow and get around that annoying rate limit. Now, if that's still not fast enough for you and you want to create a lot of designs very quickly with the 4.0 model, then one solution would be using MyDesigns. They have what's called Dream AI, and this is an AI art generator with lots and lots of models to choose from. As you can see, there's Ideogram, Flux in here, there's Recraft, and if you go to the GPT Image 1 model, that is the 4.0 image generator by ChatGPT. And what we can do now is we can enable parallel prompts, which will allow us to paste 10, 20 prompts into this box, and then each of those prompts will generate 2 images simultaneously. And within about a minute and a half usually, you can have 20, 40 results back from the same model that you're using inside of ChatGPT, which is super powerful. So let me show you how to do this. I will go to my t-shirt prompting wizard, which is a custom GPT I built. You can get access to this inside of my school community, and I'll ask it for some prompts for a specific niche right here. So let's do camping, for example, and then it will spit out some prompts that are optimized for t-shirt designs in the right format, and it will also separate them right here effectively, so we can just paste them into MyDesigns. So I'll copy the first 10 for this example, and then go back to this, paste all of my prompts into the box. And with these settings up here, I would recommend using 1 by 1 because that affects the credits. As you can see, because this isn't free, it does still cost credits to run these prompts. And the quality slider, if you turn this down, it does also decrease the amount of credits quite significantly. However, I have found that even the medium setting, it's not the greatest results. The high setting is what we get on ChatGPT, so I would recommend that if you want the best results. And then I'll click Dream right here at the bottom, and it's going to essentially add all of those prompts to the queue and start generating them. And there we go. It's about a minute and a half later max, and we've got a bunch of designs right here that are all optimized for the camping niche, and they've been generated very easily with this method. Didn't have to wait forever and have some sort of bugs with the loading on ChatGPT. Is this the cheapest way to run the model? No, definitely not. But if speed and efficiency is your priority, then this is a good option. So I will have a link to MyDesigns in the description down below. You can just sign up with the free plan and then get credits, kind of pay as you go with this model, and try it out. And by the way, the designs that you like, you can just click on them right here to highlight them, and then once you're done selecting, you can download them to your device and process them how you usually do, or you can also save them into MyDesigns, which has cloud storage, and then you can remove the background there, vectorize, and do other things in bulk, such as even listing them on Etsy or on a Shopify store, for example. Speaking of custom GPTs, one thing that a lot of you struggle with is writing listings for Amazon merch, and I've created a custom GPT that will help you with exactly that. This one is public. I'll have a link to it in the description, and there's 3 different ways to use it. You can either create a listing based on a niche, or create a listing based on very specific keywords if you want to give it a list of keywords to include, or you can just upload your design with this third option. It will scan the design and then write a listing based on that. So let's just do the second option right here for this example, and let's imagine we're doing a camping design. So I'll give it a few keywords that are relevant for camping, and then I'm going to hit enter on this, and now it should give you a minimal listing as well as a traditional listing, meaning here we just have a title and a brand name with some of the most important keywords: camping, hiking, camper van. Not as much fluff as you would get if you have, bullet 1 and bullet 2 filled in as well. But if you prefer having more keywords in your listing, you have that option down here as well. Now, a quick warning, this is AI, and even though I've trained this GPT to give you results that are more applicable to Amazon merch, it's still not perfect, and I would only use these as a starting off point and still read them and potentially take out some keywords that are relevant or make no sense, and then add in keywords that are actually relevant based on your research. Because what ChatGPT can't do is actually scan Amazon and do research for you and find out, what are the most important keywords to include in the listing. But nevertheless, here we've got enjoy the great outdoors with this nature-inspired design featuring camping, hiking, and campervan life, perfect for outdoor lovers and nature enthusiasts. And then it even adds some keywords down here for the target audience and some holidays. Yeah, so there we go. You can easily copy and paste these right here, put them into your fields whilst you're uploading. And yeah, I hope you like this GPT. Also open to feedback. Let me know if you test this out, how it goes, and drop your comments down below. Another GPT that can be really handy to help you out with your niche research is this sub-niche sniper right here. I'll have a link to this in the description as well. And this will essentially help you generate sub-niches and target audience for whichever niche you put into here. So if we stick with the camping example, if I hit enter on that, it's going to give me 25 highly targeted sub niches for the camping niche. And we've got tent camping, we've got RV and campervan life, we've got campfires, hammock camping, which I've never heard of, and also describes target audience down here of who this might apply to. So this way you're going to get some ideas. Glamping is one that I've seen on shirts for sure. Camping with dogs, that's great. So you're going to get a lot of ideas for potential sub niches to target, which is always a good way to stand out and have an easier time getting sales in some of these very broad and competitive niches. And then at the end, it also says, would you like a downloadable table or visual chart of these sub niches and audience? So let's say yes and just see what it comes up with. Let's download this right here. Nice. And now we have essentially a spreadsheet with the different sub niches and the target audience all in one place. And that way we don't have to scroll through ChatGPT's old chats endlessly, and we have it saved on our device. And a quick bonus tip of something to avoid and not to use ChatGPT for. Here, I created a t-shirt design for taco lovers, and I then told it to upscale this by 4x. And after a little while, it gave me a download link to the upscaled version. Now, this all sounds really good. However, when I took a closer look at this upscaled graphic, I realized something that is quite alarming. So I'm inside of Photoshop right here. I have the original design, which is 1000 by 1000 pixels, opened up, and I'm zooming in so you can see kind of the pixelation of that version. If I hide this now, you're going to see the upscale version by 4.0, which is 4000 by 4000 pixels. So it definitely is at a higher dimension. It's changed the size, but if I hide this, it looks exactly the same. So again, this is the original, this is the upscaled version. There's no difference really. It's not done in upscale, it's just changed the size. And just to compare it to a true upscale, I use the free software Upscale right here for this last version. So let me hide this layer. There we are. That actually looks a lot more crisp. And as you can see, it's improved a lot of the details, whereas the original, looked terribly, terribly pixelated. So this is very important, I think, to note, because I've seen some people say that they've been able to remove the background, upscale, and save it the right dimensions all within ChatGPT, but you're not really upscaling. The graphic is going to look terrible once printed. So still use external upscalers or vectorizers for this job, because it's not there yet, or maybe it doesn't understand upscaling. I'm not sure. So be aware of that. Upscaling doesn't work effectively. As you can see, ChatGPT sure is a powerful tool, but what it can't do is protect you from making some big mistakes when it comes to the legality of using AI art. And that's why in this next clip, I explain how to make sure your designs are safe for commercial use. Can I use the images that I generate for commercial purposes? Now the answer is it depends. In most cases, yes, you can, but it depends on the terms and conditions. So what you have to do is, whichever tool you're using, check on their homepage, on their website, if they have a link for their terms and conditions. Well, they should do, they will do somewhere. And then once you've opened that link, hit Control F or Command F and search for the word commercial. And then it should quickly direct you to the relevant paragraph that tells you either, yes, you can use the generations or the outputs for commercial purposes or not. That seems to be the case with most AI tools that I've spoke about in the past, whether it is Ideogram, Flux Pro, DALL-E 3, Midjourney, Kittle AI, all of those, you can use the outputs for commercial purposes, but the terms and conditions can always change, so always double check. On top of that, if you don't want to get banned from Amazon or Etsy, then you need to avoid any content related to trademarks or intellectual property. So don't generate designs of Darth Vader or of Superman, for example, but this goes without saying. What doesn't go without saying is how to prepare your AI designs for printing. Because if you don't master this, you will have a lot of angry customers, negative reviews, and thousands of returns flying in. But not to worry, this next video outlines the 2 key methods for converting your AI designs to print-ready quality, upscaling and vectorizing. Plus, I will also show you which one of the 2 you need to use. So in this video, we're going to talk about Vectorizer versus Upscaler. What are the pros and the cons of each of these tools, and when should you be using them, essentially? And I think a lot of people are confused about this, and it's not actually as difficult as you might think. So first of all, before I go into the pros and cons of both vectorizers and upscalers, I wanted to give you a general idea of what's actually going on with these tools. The goal is, in both cases, no matter which one of the 2 you're using, to increase quality. Because of AI art generators, we have a lot of low resolution images now that are sort of rendered at around 1,000 pixels. They don't look great. They're very pixelated. If you want to print them on a t-shirt or anything bigger than a tiny sticker, basically, they're going to look bad. That's why vectorizers and upscalers are out there, or why they're being used a lot now, right? So the goal is, with both of them, to increase quality. Both of them do the job pretty well. You can use either one in most cases. You do not have to use both. That would be a bit overkill. You can use both, but I feel like it's a bit pointless. However, there is certain scenarios where vectorizer might be more applicable. There is other scenarios when Upscaler might be more applicable. And it also has to do with your personal situation. How do you create designs? How do you want to edit the files afterwards? What are you more familiar with? I'm going to go through a lot of different notes right here that I want to address. First of all, we're going to talk about vectorizers. And I think I need to mention what a vector actually is for you to understand this, because I think not everyone knows this. So we've got essentially 2 different types of files. We've got raster images and we've got vector files. Raster means it's made up of pixels. So these would be PNG files or JPEG files. And if you zoom in on these, you will eventually start seeing pixels. That's what they're made out of. If you imagine printing these pictures at a large scale, then you will see the pixels. You will see the low quality in a sense if you print them too large. However, vectors, on the other hand, they are not made up of pixels. They are essentially a combination of paths and different points, right, that make up a design. They show you the path instead of the pixels. And you can test this with any vector file, like an SVG file. You can open it up in a free vector editing tool such as Figma or Inkscape and zoom into the design. You will not see pixels. You will see a smooth line even if you fully zoomed in. That is the difference between the 2. They're also aesthetically different in a sense, but we're going to go into that. So first of all, what are the pros and cons of a vectorizer? So the most obvious pro of using a vectorizer is that it creates files that are infinitely scalable. I say this all the time, but essentially, once you've got a vector, you can just quickly increase the size to whatever you want, and you're not going to lose out on quality. Whereas if you've upscaled an image, it is still constrained to its pixel dimensions, and you still have to watch out. You can't make it too big because it might still turn out blurry in the print. So with a vectorizer, I do realize we eventually export the files in a PNG format, and it will obviously get printed in that sort of format. However, it's just easier to work with in a design process if you don't have to worry about the limitation with raster images. So infinitely scalable, that's a massive pro of using vectors. Now, the second thing is you actually get access to vector editing capabilities. If you've only got an image from an upscaler, then it is a different process to go about changing things with that image. You can obviously modify it with apps like Photoshop, but if you have a vector, in my opinion, you kind of have opened up a new door, because you can edit all the different shapes, you can change the colors more easily, you can use many different tools and processes that you wouldn't really be able to access if you're just using a plain raster image. So the vector editing capabilities are a massive pro, and you don't even need Adobe Illustrator for this. Like I said, there is Figma, there is Inkscape, there is free tools, free alternatives to Adobe Illustrator to take advantage of these vector editing capabilities. Another bonus is, once you've got a vector file, you can turn this file into pretty much any other file type. So if you wanted to sell your designs as digital art, for example, you could sell them as SVG, EPS, PDF, JPEG, PNG, like so many different files you can quickly create from a vector. Whereas if you're starting off with a JPEG or a PNG, you can't go the other way. You do have to vectorize first. That is another bonus of starting out with a vector or using a vectorizer. You also have the bonus or the benefit of having a very small file size. So if you've ever used an upscaler and then a vectorizer straight afterwards for the same image, you might have noticed that the upscaled image is way bigger in terms of its, megabytes than the vector itself. And even if you open up the vector in an image editing tool and you save it at the same sorts of dimensions, you should have a smaller file in most cases. At least that's what my experience has been. So I do think the sort of lower file size is definitely another pro of using a vectorizer. And a few things that vectorizers are very suitable for when it comes to the sorts of AI graphics that you're using is, first of all, flat illustrations, 2D stuff, something that looks like a cartoon or vector art, stuff that looks like it's digitally created and that is more simplistic. That is where vectors really shine, in my opinion, or vectorizers, right? We often see these sorts of graphics on t-shirt designs. That's why I'm always or most often using vectorizers myself, because I do design t-shirts. However, not all images are equal. So if you've got a very detailed photographic image, then a vector is not going to do a great job. It's going to ruin the detail and make it look very flat and simplistic, which in some cases you just don't want. So do remember, it is better for more simplistic, flat illustrations that have a digital feel to them. So some of the cons of using vectorizers, I kind of alluded to one right there, that it doesn't work well for photographs, but another con is that it ruins gradients. So all of the vectorizers that I've used so far, if you've got a gradient within the image, like it fades from orange to yellow, it will break up that gradient into multiple sections. It will not create a smooth gradient that is sort of fading from one color to the other, which is possible with vectors. I don't know why that happens. I guess the vectorizer tools are not as advanced yet to be able to create gradients. I'm sure that's probably going to come around eventually, but if you do use a lot of gradients and you don't want them to be ruined, then that's definitely a downside to using a vectorizer. Also, a small downside is you do have to often turn the vectors back into PNG, because most print-on-demand platforms actually don't really allow vector files for upload. I think you can do it on Printify, but in most cases you're going to have a PNG. So the vector is actually, in that case, more like the vessel, the step in between low resolution image and the final high quality PNG. It's sort of the middle step that you're using to enhance or upscale the quality. I mean, it adds one little step, which is a bit of a con. Another downside is that vectors are not great for seamless patterns, because I have noticed with the vectorizers, they often sort of mess up that seamless edge. You will notice if you try and match up the patterns afterwards that the shapes are kind of out of place, and the vector, again, it simplifies a lot of the areas, and therefore it doesn't look very accurate when you actually put the seams together with these patterns. So that is one of the downsides of using a vectorizer, is that it doesn't really work that well for pattern designs. Let's move on to the Upscalers then. Essentially what these do is they take your low pixel raster image and they turn it into a high pixel raster image. So it might go from 1,000 to like 4,000 pixels. And at the same time, the Upscaler is also enhancing the quality, making the image look sharper, and it will print better in the end, right? That is the main goal in most cases. So the pros of using an Upscaler is the result stays closer to the original aesthetic of the image. Vectorizers, like I said, they kind of obscure the style a bit, and whilst it might work well in some scenarios with some art styles, in most cases Upscalers are going to stay a lot closer to the original and give you a more accurate result in a sense. So that is why they are more suited for photography, for more intricate art, more detailed design work, and that is what we see a lot with AI art generators. So that's why Upscalers definitely have a valid place out there. Some of the other pros are essentially just, reversing some of the cons of a vectorizer, and that is Upscalers are great for patterns because that way you kind of maintain that seamlessness if you're using seamless patterns. So that is a pro of using an upscaler, as well as they stick to gradients. So they will actually keep a gradient more intact and actually make it look even more detailed in a sense. So you do not lose gradients if you work with gradients a lot. That is a massive pro of using upscalers. If we move on to the cons, however, there is a few extra things right here that you might want to consider. And obviously these also kind of depend on the quality of your upscaler that you're using. So they might not always apply, and it also depends on what sort of source image you're using. If it's really, really bad quality, then your results are going to be worse, but you can possibly get some ghosting. What I mean by this is around the edges of your graphics, you will have like, ghosting effect, meaning it sort of looks a bit foggy, shiny. I'll show examples of this on the screen, which you don't really tend to get as much with vectorizers. This is a very raster imagey sort of effect. You also have more grain because if you're upscaling this, you're making things more crisp. With the sharpness often comes grain, which in a vector you wouldn't really have, because a vector you have like one color shapes, right? One straight color. With a raster image, you have lots and lots of different miniature pixels that are essentially forming different colors, and that often has the effect of grain. I've noticed this if I'm comparing two results of vector to upscaler, that sometimes the upscaled images look a bit grainy in comparison. Then there's obviously the downside of not having a vector editing capability. So, and this totally depends on what you're used to. So if you always use Photoshop anyway, then it probably won't bother you, right? You'll be happy with having a PNG, a JPEG to work with. If you are really into like Adobe Illustrator, Figma, whatever it might be, then always using an upscaler might limit you quite a bit with those tools, because you're used to, messing around with a pen tool, direct selection, all of these different things, which don't really help you out if you have a JPEG file or a PNG file inside of Adobe Illustrator. So another thing that's worth mentioning here is that oftentimes the free upscalers are quite limited in terms of you can't really increase the size as much as you might like to do. So I think most of them, they stop at 4x, right? So that means you're going to get to about 4,000 pixels. I think ideally you'd want to be a bit higher than that for t-shirts or many print-on-demand products, like 5,000-6,000 pixels maybe, hopefully, is what you'd want to reach. So that is a little bit of a downside, I think, for these upscalers if you're using the free ones. Obviously with Upscale, I'm pretty sure you can go higher than that. You can use the double upscale function, and there will be paid tools like Gigapixel Topaz where you can just increase the quality way higher. But yeah, free ones are often quite limited, which is a bit of a downside. And another downside is the large file size, which I've definitely noticed. Like oftentimes these upscalers put out files that are like 20 megabytes, 30 megabytes, and that's so massive to work with. First of all, it'll slow down your design tool, and if you're saving it such a large 30 megabyte file, then some marketplaces won't even accept your design, which is really unfortunate, because they do have some like maximum limit sets sometimes for like 10 or 15 MB. So yeah, upscalers do create very massive files, definitely a downside. So to sum it up, both vectorizers and upscalers do a great job at increasing the quality of our low resolution AI art. Both of them have their ups and downsides. However, you don't have to worry about it too much. Just try them both, see which one works better for you. If you're working with vectors a lot and that's what you're into, use a vectorizer. If you're often working with photography, with Photoshop, photo editing tools, then just use an upscaler. It just depends on your situation. It depends on what sorts of art you're using. So think about it, try out both options, whatever works best for you, whatever increases the quality enough will do. Now that you know more about vectorizing and upscaling, let's talk about prompts. These are an essential part of creating amazing t-shirt designs for print on demand. So let me show you a trick that makes prompting 10 times easier and turns your slow sales into regular income. There is a brand new massive library of print-on-demand and t-shirt design prompts that you can access totally for free, and it will help you find inspiration for some of the biggest models out there, including Ideogram, Flux, DALL-E 3, and more. So the website in question is a new kind of explore feed that MyDesigns introduced for Dream AI, and don't worry, you don't even have to have an account to be able to access this. You can just click the link in the description and it will bring you straight to this right here, and you can essentially view a ton of really good prompts, and almost everyone using MyDesigns uses it for print on demand. So you can be sure to find a ton of really good print on demand prompts here. The way this works is you can easily just click into any of these. It will open up the image full screen and multiple results if they did get multiple results back from their prompt. And then on the right hand side, you can easily copy the prompt right here, as well as you see the details about the model that was used, the resolution, styles, etc. On top of that, what's really handy with this Dream AI tab is that you can filter it right here on the right hand side based on whichever AI model you're designing with, or maybe you just want to do some research as to what these different models actually look like and what the differences are. For example, if I filter this with the DALL-E 3 tag right here, it's going to refresh. And by the way, I also have the most likes button right here enabled. Now we can see a lot of graphics that were generated with DALL-E 3, and you can kind of get an idea of what the style is like. So these are quite detailed, vibrant designs, three-dimensional in most cases, and the text, whilst some of the text is all right, oftentimes you will notice mistakes in this spelling, which is a common thing with DALL-E 3. If we change this filter now to, let's say, ideogram V2 down here, we're going to get a very different aesthetic. I can predict that. Yes, there we go. These are a lot more simplistic, and the spelling also tends to be, not only does it look better, but also tends to be correct and not as many spelling mistakes to be found. So this way you can easily do some research on which model might be best for generating the style that you need for your specific niche. For example, Recraft V3 is also quite a good underrated AI model that you can find results for right here within this Dream AI MyDesigns Explore tab. In this case, we've got a lot of patterns. I mean, that's not an issue. You can still find POD specific stuff. You can also search anything at the top. So for example, if I reset this to show all models, you could search for, let's do sunset and hit enter. And this way you could compare different models based on the sunset designs that you have in print on demand. So these look a lot like ideogram for me right here. If I click into this, you're probably going to see, yep, this is ideogram V2 right here. Once again, you can copy the prompt if you want to and get some more details about the resolution, etc. You can also click more to reveal the entire prompt if it's longer. And this one over here looks a lot more like Flux to me. So if we open this, this is Flux 1.1 Pro Ultra. There is a bunch of different Flux models, and whilst you've got sunsets filtered out, you could also once again apply the filters right here. So let's see if there's any DALL-E 3 sunset designs. Yes, there is, and again, these look quite different. There isn't too many. I'm guessing not too many people use DALL-E 3 for sunsets, but if we change this back to, let's do Flux 1 Pro, you're probably going to get a bunch more results because that model is pretty decent with sunsets, as you can see. There we go. This library is very new, so it's going to keep filling up, and you can keep filtering through right here and finding different prompts and inspiration. You can also sort this right here by most recent, and that way you'll get a different order. If I delete sunset, you will just see what's currently being generated with Dream AI publicly. There is a difference. Not everything, like for those people who are using Dream AI, not all of your generations are suddenly just going to be public. There is a setting to this, and I'll explain that in a second. But I just wanted to give you another bonus tip right here within this library of how to utilize the prompts that you may find and then kind of repurpose them, scale them out, and make one prompt into 10, 20, 30 prompts with a very easy trick. Let's say, for example, you found this example right here and you really like the way this design looks. Well, in this case, what we can do is we can copy the prompt. It says archery is my therapy. It was generated with ideogram V2 at a 3x4 resolution. And we can now take this prompt and head over to the MyDesigns GPT, which is inside of ChatGPT. I will have a link to this in the description as well. And you can just paste this prompt into here and then say something at the end along the lines of scale this prompt out to 20 other popular hobbies in the US. And now it will take the format of this prompt and keep it all the same, but it's going to swap out just the instances of the actual hobby in the text, obviously right here in the phrase, and then in the graphic, or that's what it should do at least. Let's go give it a test, hit enter on this, and there we go. There's no fluffy, like annoying headings in the middle like there usually is with ChatGPT. It just puts one prompt after the other right here with a line break, and yeah, everything looks like it stayed the same pretty much, vintage style design, and it's just swapped out golfer, swinging a club, hiker, walking walking with a backpack, cyclist, riding a mountain bike, and then cycling is my therapy, hiking is my therapy. Yep, there we go. That's perfect, exactly what I wanted. It's still going right here. Now you've got a ton of prompts with the similar style for a different set of niches or hobbies in this case. And what you can do now to take this even a step further is you can copy all of this right here. Obviously you can generate them within ideogram. You can do it with the spreadsheets, the batch function that they have now. You can generate it in another tool if you want to. But what you can do with Dream AI, which is built into MyDesigns, is you can go ahead and copy all of these as they are right here. You can come straight into the Dream AI tab inside of MyDesigns right here on the left hand side, and then you can just paste all of those prompts into here. So now we've got a long list of prompts inside of this Dream AI prompt bar. Then you can enable parallel prompts, which means we can run all of these parallel to one another at the same time, as long as there's a line break between them. And we'll choose the same model. So ideogram v2, and we'll make sure magic prompt is turned off, and we've got the correct resolution right here set. I'll just turn this down to 1 image to save on credits. Speaking of saving on credits, what you can do now is you can tick this right here, publicly available, to get a 30% discount on credits. So if I enable this, it goes down to 56 credits for all of these. There should be 20 prompts, right? If you look at the info for this, it essentially says you have the option to make your dream images public, allowing others to view and use them as well. So if you make them public, they'll show up in that library I just showed you. Others can use the prompt. They can use the images as well. If they have a MyDesigns subscription, I think they can use them commercially. So please note that once an image is published, it cannot be unpublished. To remove a public image, you would need to delete the dream, which will also remove it from the public gallery. How do you do that? Well, you can go into the history right here, then click on this little symbol and then click delete dream. So if you wanted to do that, I mean, you could make them public, save on credits, and then delete them after. It's just going to be a bit of a tedious job. And it also says by making your images public, you'll receive a 30% discount on each generation. While we have existing plans for additional benefits in the future, this discount is our current offering. So they'll offer even more benefits to you generating images publicly. So let me show you this as an example then. We've got public, available, enabled. We've got 1 image per prompt right here. Now we can just click dream, and it should paste all of these prompts into our history right here straight away. There we go. Typically takes a few seconds to load up, but now we have all of these generating at the same time. And you could have also done this with like 4 images at the time, giving you 80 results. Is that right? Yes, 80 results, 80 images, just by quickly copying and pasting what you got out of ChatGPT based on that original prompt. So here we go. Dancing is my therapy. First result, golfing is my therapy. Here the text is slightly wrong, unfortunately. Surfing is my therapy. And the graphic has also been changed along with that. So really, really good, quick way to not just find a ton of prompts in that public library where you don't even need to have a free MyDesigns account. And this was just a quick tip to show you that you can take those prompts, go a step further, and have them kind of multiplied in a very, very quick fashion, and also generated very quickly with parallel prompts inside of Dream AI. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a way to use all of the best AI art models for free in the same place? It sounds too good to be true, but at the time of recording this, it's actually possible. And in this next video, me and my trusty assistant, Professor Dr. Milo, show you the website that will save you hundreds of dollars. I just generated 20 t-shirt designs totally for free using ChatGPT and Ideogram 3.0, and it only took me about 20 minutes. And then I went ahead and created another 10 designs using the best Flux model right now and Google's Imagen 4, and this only took me about 5 minutes. Professor Dr. Milo is once again bringing you the biggest updates in the AI world when it comes to print on demand, because he's helped me find a brand new tool that will actually let you generate images with all of the best AI models for free. And I know that sounds too good to be true, but let me explain. So there's a website called LM Arena, and they are actually conducting research on which AI models are the best. The way they do that is they make them available for free. They pay for all of the generations out of their own pocket. They've raised a lot of money for this, and all they ask from us in return is to vote on which result we prefer. So you can often compare different models, and you'll see how that works in a second here. And then you just get all of this combined in a leaderboard. It's for text to image, it's for just text, it's for text to video, all sorts of stuff is in here. But as you can see, the text to image models right here built in are GPT Image 1. There's different Google models. We've got Flux. There's Ideogram 3. Recraft is in here as well as DALL-E 3, Stable Diffusion, and some of the models that are inside of Leonardo AI. And the way it works is really simple. I'll have a link to this page right here in the description where all you have to do is click on Generate Images. And then if you change the mode up here from battle to side by side, which is probably the best one, I've been using this all day and that's the one I prefer the most. Now you can choose two models right here from the drop down. So I could take Ideogram V3 Quality, which is the best model right now, and then I could have that face off against ChatGPT Image 1, which is OpenAI's best model right now. Now, by the way, if you don't see Ideogram in your list, it's probably because you didn't select the image function right here. That's a mistake that I made at the beginning. So click Generate Images, and then they will all show up. And now it's a case of just describing what you want to see or copy and pasting a prompt if you have it. You click Enter on the right. You might get this little error message for the GPT Image 1 model. That happens quite often, but if you click Retry a few times, usually it actually starts generating. You just have to be patient sometimes and refresh it a few times. But there we go. Ideogram 3 is already done. It's done a pretty good job. You can click Download over here to save the image to your device. And then about 40 seconds later, GPT Image 1 is also finished. And again, you can click Download right here. You can retry if you're not happy with the result. But now the question right here, before you can continue inputting your next prompt, is which one of these is better? Is the left better? Is the right side better? Is it a tie? Or are both bad? So you're supposed to give feedback on which version you prefer. That's the idea of this website. And once you've chosen the option right here, you will get a security verification pop-up. So you just click on that, and there we go. Now you can insert your next prompt right here. Now, GPT Image 1 actually seems to work quite well and doesn't have as many limits as the free version on OpenAI, ChatGPT's website, at least seemingly from my testing so far. I was able to generate about 20 images within half an hour, which I think you would run into a rate limit way quicker on the free plan with ChatGPT. If you don't want to wait though 40 seconds or 50 seconds for these to generate, another really good model up here is Imagen 4. And there is two models for that, Imagen 4 and Imagen 4 Ultra. They're both pretty decent. I do slightly prefer the Imagen 4.0 version at the top right here. So you can also choose that. And if you then hit generate, it's going to take those two models, and they're usually a lot quicker than GPT. So there we go, that was less than 10 seconds, and Ideogram took about 15 seconds right there to generate that. This one's a tie for me. Now we get the security pop up again, and we're ready to go with the next prompt. It's literally that simple. By the way, huge props to Jose Quiles, or Upscale POD on YouTube. He's the person where Professor Dr. Milo heard about this tool first, and then he let me know so I could make a video as well. But I'll have his channel linked down below. He's wildly underrated. He's an amazing, very successful Amazon merch seller, very good teacher, and a great guy and friend of the channel. So I highly recommend checking out his content. Now, just to explain another couple of important things, on the left-hand side, you have the chat history. So if you want to go back to any of your previous prompts, you can click on the left-hand side right here, and you can see the prompts and the results. On top of that, if you click New Chat, you do have 3 different modes. So just to explain what these mean, Battle is essentially picking 2 random AI models, so you don't really have control, and often the results won't be very good, so not the greatest idea. But you also have Direct Chat, which is actually not bad if you want to just focus on one AI model specifically. You don't want to have 2 facing off. So for example, if you just want to use Ideogram V3 and you already know that gets the best results for your style, just paste your prompts in here, hit enter, and then once you've got a result, you can download it once again with this button, put your next prompt into the prompt bar, and hit enter again. And there we go. With this version right here, it doesn't ask for verification after every single step, so it might be a little bit faster if you already know exactly which AI model you want to use. And if you're looking for some t-shirt design prompts to use to play around with these different models, just come to my website, philipanders.com, and go to the freebies section, where you'll find a ton of prompts for different tools like Ideogram, DALL-E 3, Midjourney, Flux, as well as ChatGPT down here. And you can download all of the files that you see right here totally for free. At this point, you might be wondering, hey Philip, I've got all these AI designs laying around on my computer, but how do I upscale them? Is there a way to do this for free? Well, not to worry, because I'm about to show you 2 amazing tools that perfect the quality of your AI art without you having to pay a single penny. Option number one I wanted to share with you is dgb.lol. This will be linked in the description along with all of the other tools that I'm going to mention in this video. And once you're on the home page, in order to get started with upscaling, you want to go to the left where it says tools, click on this, and then select the AI image upscaler. There are a lot of other tools as well, by the way, that you can use for free. Another popular option that they have is the Midjourney splitter. So that's handy for anyone who uses Midjourney a lot. Let's click on the AI image upscaler though, and I will drag a few files into this. So the first reason why I really like DGB is because as an online free upscaler, you can use it in bulk, which no one really else offers for free. So you can drag up to 20 images into this right here on the free version and have them added to your upscaling queue at once. On top of that, another reason why I like them is you get all of these different models to test out to get different results. So depending on your input image, how detailed it is or how simple it is, if it's very simple, then you might want to try the cartoon option down here. Or if it's a photograph, then another option might work better. It just really depends on your input. You will have to test some different models, find out what works best for you. But the cool thing is these range up all the way to 8x upscaler. So whilst most other free alternatives only go up to 2x or 4x, which would be the models at the top right here, these are 4x. This one you can choose 6x as well as 8x for free. And if you're designing t-shirts like me, 6x is big enough. That will give you high enough resolution. If you want to go as high as possible, then use the 8x options, and those would also be suitable for some bigger products, like bigger poster sizes, or potentially things like pillowcases, whatever you're trying to sell that has a larger print area. In that case, you can just select the 8x upscaler. So let me actually show you this as an example. Then I'm going to use the lambda one, and then you get an additional option right here that I also want to explain to you. So enhance the input image. So this does what it says, enhances the image's quality before upscale. The way this works, if I understood it correctly, is that before your image gets upscaled, it's a little bit like a mini Photoshop AI that runs through your image. It scans it for little imperfections, tries to adjust the colors to make it more vibrant, and it runs a lot of different tasks and tools to optimize the image before it goes into the upscale queue. And I've tested this side by side, like I've used the same graphics with this option enabled and disabled, and when you have it enabled, it seems to look better in the output. Sometimes a few of the artifacts are not there anymore, those like annoying blurry bits that you get with AI, or sometimes the color scheme just looks a lot better in the final output. So I do recommend turning this on and testing it out. That's definitely a cool option that Tom recently added to this site. So these are the settings that I would suggest if you want the best quality output, and then you have to click submit. Then it's going to say tasks queued. The queue is over here where it says my files, and in this case we're going to have to wait about 42 minutes. So it gives you an estimate right here in terms of how long it's going to take. That's not always 100% accurate. Sometimes it's a lot quicker than the estimate, and this time also massively depends on the time of day, how many people are using this site at the moment. Sometimes I go in here and it only takes 5 minutes, and even if you upscale like 20 graphics at once, 5 or 10 minutes sometimes is enough to get those through. And I think that wait time is totally acceptable considering you get the best quality results with a free upscaler that's online. There's another option I'm going to talk about in a minute, which is on your PC, that also gets great results. But this is an online upscaler, so it uses someone else's resources, someone else's graphic cards to increase the quality of your designs, and all you have to do is wait a little while occasionally, right? But at the same time, whilst this is running, you can go to a different page, you can do something else, you can create more graphics, do more research, whatever you want to do, upload your designs to a marketplace, come back to this in a little while, then hit the little refresh button over here, and it should give you your files ready for download. You can download the entire list of these by clicking the blue button over here at the top, this little cloud symbol, and that's then going to download the entire list. You've also got the option to delete all of the files in the queue if you want to. I think they get automatically deleted 24 hours after you've uploaded them. So yeah, that's it in terms of DGB and how to use it. I've tested it multiple times on this channel and always had very, very good results. It's always performed very, very well against some of the other upscalers that I tested. So DGB, massive recommendation, and it keeps getting better and better, the quality, the options that they have, and it is free to use, which is amazing. Option number 2 that I've got for you is upscale.org, and Upscale is another really good free upscaling option. The difference to DGB is that Upscale works on your own device. So it's a piece of software that you download, you install, and then you open up the program on your machine, you drag in your files. I'll show you this in a minute, by the way. And then it uses your own graphics card, your own GPU, to actually enhance the quality. And that is good if you've got a fast PC, a fast machine that you're working with that has a good graphics card, because then you don't have any wait time. You just drag the files in, upscale them, 1 minute later, it's all done. However, if you don't have a fast computer, or maybe you have a laptop, which those tend to have worse graphics cards, then this program might not be the best option for you, because it will probably freeze, or the upscaling won't be completed properly. You might get some error messages, stuff like that. So Upscale is a good option if you have a fast machine. It seems like they are working on an online version as well, which is definitely interesting. You can join the waitlist here. Apparently, I've just done that. So if I get access to it, I might make another video. But yeah, Upscale, let's take a look at it actually on the device. You can download it, by the way, in the top right corner. Just click the download button, and then it will give you the options right here depending on what device you're on. In my case, I just click on Windows, wait for that to download, install it, and finish. So here we go. This is what it actually looks like once you've got it opened on your device. We've got some settings to go through if you want to. You can change the color scheme, which is quite fun, to be honest. So we've got fantasy, that's very bright. Halloween, that's pretty cool. Forest, so yeah, that is just to play around with. Doesn't really affect your end result. Then we've got the image type. I usually just leave that at the default JPEG, and then turn the image into a PNG afterwards by removing the background. Then you've got the image scale. That's also interesting, and the rest is not too important. This tab right here is where the magic happens. So essentially all you have to do is select an image. So click on this. You want to choose an image from your device and hit open, and then it's going to load this into Upscale. You can change the model. So you have got a few different options in terms of models right here. I've tested those in a separate video and kind of compared the different results. If you want to check that out, it will be linked in the cards. I tend to just use the default, to be honest, for print on demand graphics right here. And you can also click double upscale, which is interesting because you see the final output here at the bottom. Instead of going to 4,000 pixels, so 4x upscaler, if you hit double upscale, it goes to 16,000 pixels, meaning it takes that new image, the 4,000 pixel image, and runs it again. It 4x's it again. So it's kind of like a 16x upscale at the end of the day, which is crazy. This one takes a lot longer, and I wouldn't recommend even pressing start on this if you've got a slow device. It would probably, crash your machine, potentially, I don't know. But yeah, so double upscale is an option, and it can give you some crazy results. It just takes a while. You can select the output folder. If you don't, I think it just saves it in the exact same path where your original files are, or it creates a new folder there. It's very sort of intuitive that way, but you can set a different output folder, and then you just click upscale, and that's it. It says hold on, doing the upscale magic. You get a percentage slider as well, and you might be wondering, this is a bit annoying doing it one at a time if DGB can do it in bulk, but you can also scroll up right here where it says batch upscale, enable this function, and now you can select an entire folder. Just save all of your files into the same folder, and it can be 50, it can be 100, however many you want, however long you want to wait. Save them all in the same folder. Again, choose the model, set an output folder if you want to, and then hit upscale. That can take a long time, again, depending on how many files you select, but the benefit is it's not limited. This is running on your own device, so you could have 50, 100, 200 images being batch upscaled at once. You might hear your fans sort of speeding up to try and cool down your GPU, but that's about it. So it's cool to have this option of single and batch upscale with the different models. And yeah, that's basically it. This is how Upscale works. I hope you have fun with it, and I hope it is useful for you if you hadn't heard of it before. One thing I missed in that video is a nasty trap for Mac users trying to download Upscale. It appears to cost $12.99 in the App Store, but not to worry, there's actually a super easy workaround that you need to see, because it will give you access to Upscale for free. So I keep seeing comments of people asking how to use Upscale for free on their Mac, because it is not very obvious anymore. If you click to actually download this for the Mac version, it takes you to the App Store and it says $12.99. Well, the thing is, this is a bit misleading. This is not the only way to get Upscale for Mac, because if you just click on alternative downloads right here, you can scroll down a little bit to where it says DMG free. And if you click on this, it will then save the installation file for Mac to your device. You just Click on that, it opens up and it installs Upscale for free without you having to purchase it. I don't know why they made it kind of, this hidden. For Windows, it's still the same. You click on Windows, it downloads an exe file, and you can install it that way. Okay, so you've upscaled your graphics, but how do you get rid of that really annoying background color? This is a key step to making your designs print ready, but it causes a headache for many. Wow, that kind of rhymed. So in this next video, I will show you a bulk background remover that actually works pretty well without you having to pay for yet another subscription. Today, my trusty assistant, Professor Dr. Milo, has helped me find a really good free background remover that you can use in bulk. It's definitely one of the best I've ever seen. And in this video, I'm going to test it with some really challenging images. So the tool in question is actually designed by Jose or Upscale POD. He's got a very underrated YouTube channel, and this is what it looks like. Very simple interface with some settings on the left. You drop your images into the middle, and then you can remove the color. Now, the thing is, this works differently to things like Clip Drop or Pixian that I've mentioned in the past, where those use AI to try and figure out what the background is. It's all AI based, whereas here you're removing a background color just like you would in Photopea or Photoshop or GIMP perhaps, and you have a lot more control over what's being deleted than just trying to rely on an AI to figure it out for you. With that said, let's take a look at some of the images we're going to remove the background from today. So this one is quite challenging because it has a lot of tiny gaps right here in the graphic. I've got a mixture of sort of easy and difficult ones. This is maybe a little bit easier. This one as well. Here we've got some thin lines in between the letters of Trust God. This one should be quite a lot easier. This one must be quite hard with these little details right here in the sun. So it's definitely a variety of background colors and difficulties. This skull is probably going to be hard to do a good job of, but let's see anyway what it's going to do. I'm going to go back to this window and then just drag and drop all of these images at once, and there we go. They've opened up. 24 images are now in this queue down here, which you can also hide, by the way, to make this view bigger. You can cycle through them and see what the effect looks like, or the removed background looks like right now. And you can also add a background color to kind of see more effectively where are there still things that are left in the design. You can zoom in at the top right here. So let me just do that. Zoom in with this slider. You can clearly see there's still some white left over, but here is the cap. We can now make changes and adjustments with the sliders on the left. Automatically is selected by default right here, which means it chooses the top left corner or the color in the very top left corner and then removes that from the image. You've got some additional sliders right here. The first one being color threshold. This is essentially like the tolerance slider. If you've ever used the magic wand feature in Photopea or Photoshop, you know what that is. The higher this right here, the more of the white it's actually going to select in the image. If we focus on this gun right here, if I lower this down, yeah, it's going to essentially select less and less of the background color. So you could play around with this right here. The next setting, which is really interesting, is minimum region size. So the higher this is, the more it'll avoid tiny gaps. The lower it is, the more it will go into all the tiny gaps and actually select the color there. So you can see right here, we've already made a big improvement just by turning this slider down all the way to the bottom, because it's now getting into the tiny gaps of this illustration. And if we now play around with the color threshold, you can more easily refine this. So we should probably have this up quite high. And then we've also got edge feathering, which this is essentially like the shift edge feature in Photoshop. If you want to refine your mask, you can shift the edge inwards, which I wouldn't really use this too much because it will ruin your graphic. You might as well want to turn this down to 0 and then test with these settings right here how much you can select of the background color. So if I have this set to really, really strong, no edge feathering, it looks okay. Maybe just 1 pixel, turn this down a little bit. So you have to find a sweet spot here. I think I'm going to try, 0 edge feathering, 1 minimum region size, and then quite a high color threshold is looking good right now. You also have a contiguous setting, by the way, which again, you'll probably know from the magic wand. So if I turn this on right here. It won't go inside of these graphics, but this is not very handy if you have text in your design. So we'll leave that off. And whatever settings you have here get applied across the board. So I can skim through these and you can see that most of these have done a pretty good job. Like if I zoom in on the text right here, we said this is a challenging one. It's taken out some of the stuff in these gaps, and you could still apply this kind of edge feathering effect and have it look even better. If I remove the background color, you can see this looks pretty good. Same with the goose, whereas the skull was quite a difficult one. Skulls generally have so many little spots in between right here in the skull, and that's tough to remove background effectively. And whilst it's not 100% perfect, there's still some tiny little black spots which I think we might struggle to remove completely. This is the best I've ever seen. Usually this looks way worse with some of the automated background removers out there that use AI, and this is really good for a complex, difficult graphic. Let me disable that again and also show you that there is some effects at the bottom that you can use too. So the first one is an ink stamp effect, which I believe only works on certain graphics. Yeah, we can do it with this goose right here. You can essentially overlay a color onto your design. It doesn't always work with all of the graphics, but for some of them it will work. I kind of give you a different color alternative. You can also enable image effects if you want and increase things like the brightness, the contrast, or the vibrance of your colors. There's black and white or grayscale setting if you want to just kind of reprocess all of your images black and white and upload them, or you can invert the colors and run this in bulk as well to have everything kind of apply to a different color shirt. So there's some really handy settings that you can all run in bulk. You can refine all of these sliders for the background removal, and then once you're done, you can run it in bulk, which is amazing. So once you're happy with the settings, you click process and download right here, and it will go one after another. This is really fast. You might get a pop-up right here from Google Chrome telling you that something is trying to download multiple files. You have to allow that or accept it, and then all of these will be saved to your downloads folder with the background removed as a PNG output. It's really fast, and I'm now also curious if this works with images that have already been upscaled, because if you've upscaled your graphics first, it might be easier to remove the background afterwards, because you have more pixels to work with. So let me run a few of these through an upscaler and then test that as well. So I'm going to now click clear all at the bottom. I ran 3 of the images through Upscale, which is a free upscaler, and let's see if this works. These are about 4,000 pixels wide and high now, and yeah, there we go. So this one actually doesn't look good because we've probably got too much of the color threshold right here selected. Let's turn this down. I can definitely tell this is now slower in terms of previewing the changes. This will use your device to process this preview and to also process the images afterwards. So if you have a really slow laptop, this might take a little while. Also, we have the image effects still turned on, so that probably doesn't help. And there we go. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. Let's see what this one turns out like. These settings, yep, the white's been removed pretty effectively from that, and we've got drumline mum right here for the final design. That's also done a good job. Maybe slightly bring this up right here for some of the white inside of the flowers. But besides that, this seems to work. Let's see if I can process these, even though they're bigger images. Yep, it is starting. It's definitely taking a bit longer for each individual image, but there doesn't seem to be a limitation, which typically there is, especially with free background removers. You can't put an upscaled image into them. So this is huge. If you've got any feedback for Jose, leave it in the comments as well, or if there's anything that you're unsure about. I think this is an amazing tool, so good that we can use it in bulk and kind of save us from having to do everything one at a time with Photopea or Photoshop. One issue that I never see anyone mention on YouTube is that if you upscale your graphics, the files can be absolutely massive. And this not only clogs up your hard drive, but it also stops you from uploading to platforms like Amazon Merch because they have a 25 megabyte file limit. But the good news is your perfect solution to this problem is yet another free software. It's called Casium. It's an image compressor, and I'm going to show you how to use it to get around those bloated AI files. Have you ever upscaled your AI art and then been frustrated that your file size is absolutely massive? Just look at these examples right here, where almost all of these are 130 MB, which not only does it clutter up your hard drive, but Amazon Merch only accepts files that are up to 25 MBs large, so these wouldn't really work. But there's a way to get around this issue by using Casium, and this is a free tool. I'll leave a link to it in the description, and it compresses your images up to 90% without visible quality loss. And I've tried this and I can agree with this. It does definitely work. If you click on download, you can install this for Windows and Mac. And once you've opened it up, this is what it looks like. And you just have to drag and drop your files into this. You can do it in bulk. It shows you the file size and the resolution. And then there's some simple settings on the right, which you don't even necessarily need to change, but I just want to explain them quickly. So the compression right here, essentially the higher you set this, the more it's going to retain the quality. The files might be a little bit bigger that way instead of, having it set to a lower amount, but I've just set mine to 100 right here. That's not been an issue for me. File size still gets reduced a lot. Then you can also resize right here based on dimensions, percentage, etc. I've tried this to get it to fit the Amazon Merch dimensions, but it also kind of stretches the images out, at least in my case. So I've just turned this off, and the output tab right here, you have a few settings in terms of where and how these files are being saved. For example, you can add a suffix if you want to differentiate between the previous large files and the newly compressed ones. So I just added that right here, and that's basically all you need to know. Once you're ready, you click compress, and then it's going to run through these one by one. This does use your device, so if you have a slow laptop, slow PC, it might take a little bit longer, but as you can see, it's already done for me. It's saved 87%, over a gigabyte right here. And if I go back to the original folder, you can see at the bottom right here that all of these are now way below 20 MB, which is amazing. Now I can upload these to Amazon Merch without any issues, and I've saved a lot of storage space. Next up, I need to introduce you to doing research with AI. Finding profitable niches is at the core of being successful as a print-on-demand seller, and to make things easier, Flying Research combines the power of ChatGPT with Amazon's search volume and competition data. And this little trick makes finding high potential niches a piece of cake. There is a new way to do niche research using AI technology. Flying Research has recently added 3 new features, and in this video I'll walk you through how to use them to find sub-niche opportunities with low competition, high search volume, and how to generate phrases for your t-shirt designs and get them checked for trademarks very easily. So within your Flying Research dashboard, you can find the new AI tools on the left-hand side over here on the sidebar. There's been 3 new tools added, and we'll go over them one by one. So the first one, Aurora, if we click into this, is a search mask where you can type in a broad search term or topic over here, and this will give you back a lot of related search terms to this overarching niche, and it will also show you, and this is the powerful part, it will show you the search volume, the indexed products, and some potential for the specific niche. So really handy there. And you've got the option to change this to mainstream if you want very broad topics, or more specialized for more sub-niche things. You can change the market, so you don't have to stick to the US, and the language as well for these search terms. So really handy. Let's do an example for this right here with the topic. So if I just try diet in this case, it's going to start loading. This does take a few seconds, but you're going to get a long list of information back. So here we go. These have started loading up. Not all of them are done yet, but after a minute or two, usually this list is done. And you can also reload it, by the way, at the bottom once all the results are in, and you will get additional search terms right here. Now this is really cool because on the left, you've got all of the different keywords. You can copy them at the click of a button like this individually. You can copy the whole list over here with this copy button, and then save it to a spreadsheet or something for later, because bear in mind, if you click out of this into another tool, your list will be gone. So always copy and save this beforehand. And here what you can see is the Amazon search volume. So let's open one of these up. This says 1,640. You can see the trend of the search term. This one has been going down recently. You see the average monthly search volume, the maximum, minimum, and you can look at each individual month as well, which is really cool. Then you can see the total products in this search term and a ratio. So the ratio is essentially between these two, and the lower it is, the lower this number, the worse the potential essentially. It's not always a number that you should follow exactly. Like, it still depends on the search term, and it depends on the types of products that are actually sold within this. It's not always guaranteed that these are t-shirt niches, but you can also check out what comes up within Amazon right here. So click on this, open it on any of the international marketplaces. Amazon merch, this will filter out more merch related products if you use one of these pop-ups, and you can search it on Google as well. You can order these as well, so we can order them by ratio and have the highest ones at the top. So high ratio is always a good first indicator. Again, it doesn't guarantee this is definitely a niche you should enter, but you know, these are the ones you should focus on to begin with, because look, we've got 2,000 searches for vegan diet and only 241 products indexed. You can also click on top ranking and you will see what is indexed. Now with these sort of diet search terms, you are going to get a lot of books rather than t-shirts, because you know, books will be more popular than t-shirts in these categories. But overall, this will already give you an idea what people will see in the results. And there's a lot of really interesting search terms here, like carnivore diet. We've got diet for ectomorphs, right? This has got medium ratio as well. Very low results on this, so potentially a micro niche that's worth looking further into. Diet for marathon runners, that's a really interesting search term for me. On my opinion, that makes me think about cross niching. Got zero sugar diet, so many different diets. Intermittent fasting, that's another cool one. Doesn't seem to have much data right here, but it says variations at the end, so that's probably why there's not much search volume, etc. If you just looked at intermittent fasting, you probably have different results. Vegan ketogenic diet, also that's interesting. The ratio here is terrible, so it's probably a very competitive niche, but you know, this has given me a lot of really interesting search terms very quickly related to diet that are sort of more sub niche, and I could now generate more at the bottom as well if I wanted to. Each time you use this tool, you do tend to see different results. Like, I've typed in diet a few times and it's not like you always get the same list. It is an AI tool spitting out different results. Some of them repeat, of course, but this definitely helps get your creative juices flowing whilst doing research with some additional data as well. So that's in terms of our Aurora. Let's move on to Reveal. So Reveal is a bit like ChatGPT, just on steroids, because here you can type in any prompt, any question that you've got. It will bring back a lot of search results, again with the search volume of data attached to it. How's this different from Aurora? Aurora, you just type in a broad niche. Here you can actually, you know, speak to this and type in a prompt, a specific question. It'll be more specific in your results rather than throwing out lots of random search terms in that case. So what we can do is, well, the example says give me all major cities in Germany. So let's say you wanted to create some designs for France. We could do something like, what are the most visited cities and towns in France? We can hit search right here, and there we go. Very quickly, it's given us a long list of different cities to target, and once again, take a further look into. You've got the same features on this page. You can copy individual keywords. You can copy the whole list. You've got the ratio over here. You can filter this, or order it, I should say. You could also order it by total products, and then have the very small micro niches at the top. So these are cities that still have search volume, but they don't seem to have a lot of results. Those are always interesting to consider. And yeah, so this one, really cool. Let's try another example right here in terms of a prompt. Let's maybe do most popular horse breeds in the USA. Search, just to give you some inspiration. You don't have to stick to cities in certain countries. You can do types of, you know, types of certain vehicles. You can do types of, like a million different things you can type in right here. Again, to get more niched down and to find some good niches to target. And what can we see right here? American quarter horse at the top. Low ratio though. Thoroughbred, that's medium. Appaloosa, can't even pronounce that. Look, 12,000 search volume and only 588 results. What shows up here? Books, again, movies, but we've got some t-shirts as well. So, I mean, that shows that even on like a broader term, what you might expect to be broader results, you can find Amazon merch t-shirts in there. And this has a lot of volume, so that's definitely interesting. And we've got tons more breeds right here. You can see this is a lot more concise than the Aurora tool. It's literally spit out horse breeds and not a lot of random stuff on top of that. So this is super interesting. You can use it more openly and ask it questions to find a lot of different niches more quickly. That's Reveal, and let's move on to Mumble, which will help you find phrases to use in your designs once you've picked some niches to target. So Mumble is a bit more more self-explanatory. You've got a type section over here. You can do jokes, memes, puns, quotes, and I think quotes works quite well for the types of designs I like creating on t-shirts, but you could also try the other ones, like puns are quite popular, rhymes, 2 or 3 words, and sayings as well. I haven't tried all of them, but let's just start off with quotes. You can even change the language, so if you wanted to create a design in a different language, you can do that too. Find some funny phrases with this tool, and then just type in a broad topic essentially. So let's maybe try it with a dog breed in this case. Let's type in pug and hit search. Let's see what we get back from Mumble. Right, here we go. We've got a long list of phrases. You can once again generate more at the bottom if you don't like these, or if you just want more options. You can copy everything with this button, or copy individual phrases too, and you see the trademark status as well. So if one of these phrases is trademarked, you'll see a little registered symbol right here, and you can open up the trademark search as well on a separate page to take a closer look at this. So it is trademarked at class 25 in the UK. It tells you that the status is registered indeed, when it was filed, etc., and who's the applicant. We can open this up further for details. So this is definitely worth bearing in mind, that the phrases do get trademark checked for you. It's the entire phrase though, it's not individual words, it's if the whole phrase is trademarked together. But moving back to this, what are the actual phrases that came out right here? Pug Life chose me. Pugs, not drugs. I do like that one, but you know, it's the trademarked one, of course. Pugs and kisses, keep calm and love pugs. Life is better with a pug. And so many of these phrases are applicable to other niches, right? So even if you don't want to enter the pug niche, do it with other animals. Happiness is a warm pug. Pug, a bundle of love. Pug is my best friend. So these are very applicable to t-shirt design in my opinion. Let's try it with a different type. Let's see what comes out if we choose puns maybe. Hit search again on this. Right, here we go. We've got, once again, a lot of phrases worth using. Only a few are registered. Well, only one is registered, the other one is filed. And we can see at the top, I'm feeling quite punderful today. I'm pun-stoppable, puntastic vibes only. Pugs, not drugs, we had that one. And then save water, drink coffee. So it's getting a bit mixed up right here. I guess there's not too many puns that it came up with exactly with the word pug in there. But there is some at the top, which I think are quite good. So you can order this by length. That was an accident, didn't mean to do that. But let's try a different topic, maybe not dogs, maybe something that's a bit more bland, and see if you can still come up with some decent phrases here. Let's maybe try unicycle. I've never really looked at that niche specifically. I have it in some scalable designs, but I've never looked at phrases exactly for this one. I think this might be a bit harder. I've changed this to sayings as well to try out something else. Before we had quotes, that gave some really good results, but let's see what this one takes us to. Life is like riding a unicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. Okay, so this is a bit more inspirational. Unicycle, difficult to learn, impossible to forget. One wheel, one chance, one journey. I like those. These are quite good. Unicycling, it's a balancing act. Riding a unicycling story. Keep calm and ride on. You could do this with a unicycle graphic, I suppose. It's not just a hobby, it's a lifestyle. So these are a bit of a different style, but still I can see them working as print-on-demand phrases, and none of these are registered, which is good too. So seems like there's a lot of versatility right here, a lot of different types to choose from, and a lot of potential to find new ideas for t-shirt designs in many different niches. It's pretty next level, right? But if you thought that was crazy, check out this next video where I reveal how AI can take over your entire niche research process. You can literally watch it, make the changes live. I don't have to do anything with my mouse. I can move this onto a separate monitor and do something completely different, or I don't know, go for my lunch, and this will just keep running and looking for bestsellers for me. This AI agent just helped me find 5 trending Etsy listings that had more than 10 purchases in the past 24 hours. This one gave me a long list of long tail keywords and potential t-shirt niches for Amazon, some of which are this one right here with only 73 results and a shirt with a 400k BSR, or this one with 100 results, the top seller having a 38k BSR. And as we speak, this agent is currently using flying research for me to help me identify high potential evergreen niches. Welcome to the new era of AI for print on demand. These agents will help you automate many different workflows, including research, listings, analyzing niches to come up with better ideas, operating different softwares and tools that you commonly use. And in this video, I'm going to show you 3 different examples of AI agents that I'm going to be using, and I'll also show you how to set up your own. So in order to use an AI agent, you need to be on chatgpt.com, and if you click on tools, you will now see the agent mode right here. Once you click on that, it says describe a task, and you have to be quite specific here of what you wanted to do inside of a browser, because if you just say design me a t-shirt or find a niche, it doesn't really know what to do. An example for that would be this prompt right here, which I will leave in the description down below. So I'll give you a few of these prompts for yourself to try out and kind of see what the workflow looks like. And these are quite detailed step-by-step instructions to essentially conduct Etsy research. So that example I showed you at the very beginning of trending Etsy shirts, this was the prompt I used for the agent. It says, search for t-shirts on Etsy.com, apply filters, modify the URL to only show best sellers, then sort by newest, and check each listing individually for the text of how many people have bought it in the past 24 hours. And if I click enter on this right now, what it's going to do is set up its own desktop right here. And as you can see, it's already on Etsy and filtering right here by star seller and physical products. You can literally watch it, make the changes live. I don't have to do anything with my mouse. I can move this onto a separate monitor and do something completely different, or I don't know, go for my lunch, and this will just keep running and looking for bestsellers for me. You can see now it's changing the sorting right here to newest. It also has changed the URL because now it says bestseller in these filters, and now it's clicking on the first listing to identify the red text. This one said in 20 plus basket, so it's now gone back to the home page or the front page right here of the search results and clicking into the second listings. You can also, by the way, click on these three dots up here and, for example, take over the browser. So if there's something blocking the view, or if you need to log into an account, this is a quick way to do it. This one says 7 people bought it in the last 24 hours. There's an example of one that was close, but still it moved on to the next one. And you can obviously modify this prompt as well. If you copy it from my description, modify it to whatever you want. Maybe you only want listings that have 5 sales in the past 24 hours, or only listings that have 30 plus sales in the past 24 hours. It's totally up to you. Modify the prompt as you wish. And you can also change whatever it types in right here. That's defined in the prompt. If I scroll up, I'm asking it in the first step to type t-shirt, but if you wanted to look for coffee mugs or for sweatshirts, change that, modify that here in the prompt, and then the agent will modify its behavior accordingly. You can also have multiple agents running at the same time. So if you have 2 or 3 tabs open with these agents, there's no problem. They don't interfere with each other, which is even better. Now, the second workflow I wanted to show you uses an actual research tool within its process to kind of give you the example or ideas of what can you implement into this. Do you have certain tools that you use on a regular basis, certain websites that you go to do your research? In that case, you can probably automate some of these things, even if they're not directly on the marketplace. For example, Flying Research has this niche analysis tab right here, where you can type in different niches and it gives you a score based on how much potential it sees in the niche. So for example, fly fishing right here gets a B. This is an average rating. The best ratings are S+, S, and A, but for example, this one right here, Bearded Dragon, got an A, so it's slightly better and it has solid potential. Now, the problem with this page is you can only type in one thing at a time, and it can get quite boring and time consuming to do this on your own. So why not just instruct an agent to do this for you? It says, help me identify niches that score an A, S, or S+ on Flying Research. I give it the link right here. You might have to actually log in when the agent starts up its desktop. It will probably ask you to log into your account, but after that, what it will do is it will go through different hobbies, animals, occupations, food and drink, personal interests, etc. So essentially evergreen niches, and then it will check them for the rating, and once it's found multiple niches with a good score, it will give you a summary. And you can even insert niche terms to avoid right here if there's some specific words or niches that you don't want to type in, or if it's already given you some results in the past and you don't want those to be tested again because you already know they have a good score. So anyway, that's the prompt right here. Again, it will be in the description for you to download, and this is what it looks like whilst the agent is filtering and going through different niche tests. Here's a couple of examples of what the results may look like. Here we've got mountain biking and space cat with a grade A rating. You get a bit of a summary and then once again the links for Amazon. In this case we've got banjo, piano and saxophone, so search for different instruments and you get the scores right here. Banjo even scoring a grade S, which is pretty rare. And of course you can once again modify the prompt if you only wanted to look at specific types of niches, or you only want to filter out the S and S plus ratings, for example. And you can also determine how many niches you want to identify before it actually stops running. And the last agent workflow that I wanted to share with you before I show you how to set up your own is this right here. It worked for 21 minutes and then came up with a massive list of long tail keywords that people are actually typing in on Amazon, and these are all links that will open up the niche straight away on Amazon for you to check the competition and demand. For example, let's try out I called in seasick. Change this up here to bestsellers. Got 131 results and one of these has 3 reviews. Now the BSR ranks for these are not crazy, but this is just the very first link I clicked on from that extremely long list. And to explain the actual agent workflow, or what it does is essentially it uses 2 websites in combination. The first one being the random word generator, which you may know if you've watched Adam Young's or Side Hustle Simplified's channel. Here you can generate a bunch of random words that will help you for your Amazon research. The only problem is we can't go to Amazon directly with these agents because Amazon has blocked them from accessing the marketplace. But we can use this website right here. It's called Keyword Tool. All of these websites will be linked down below in the description, by the way. And if you type in a random word up here plus the word shirt and you have the Amazon tab selected, it will give you all of the long tail keywords that include the word that you typed in up here. And that's what the agent is going to do. It's going to use a combination of the random word generator and this tool right here, save all of these long tail keywords and put them into a list with clickable links inside of ChatGPT. You can see the master prompt right here has multiple steps and it will be linked below once again for you to copy and paste and use yourself. And if I hit enter on this, let's just quickly see it running. And there we are, it's already on the random word generator right here. And there we go, it's now going to the keyword tool to type that in with the word shirt appended. Now, in case you want to create your own custom workflow with these agents and you're not sure how to structure the prompt because they are quite long and in depth, all you have to do really is come to a new chat in ChatGPT and start to dictate right here. If I click on this, it's going to transcribe essentially what I'm saying, and you can just describe like you would do to any human being what you want this agent to do. You can even open up a new tab and click through the different steps on Etsy or on your research tool to have an easier time explaining it. This will still be recording your voice even if it's not the tab that's currently open. And then once you're done going through the steps and explaining them to this dictate function, then you just click on the check mark, you wait for it to process your voice, and there we are. Now all of this is recorded. You can click enter and wait for it to spit out a prompt. You do need to tell it that you're looking for a prompt for the AI agent mode right here. That is broken down in kind of a step-by-step process. But besides that, that's all you really have to do. And then once you have the prompt, you change it to agent mode and you start going. A few things that I've noticed so far that don't work with the agents is, for example, they can't access your hard drive. So if, like me, you were thinking, hey, I've got all of these files that I want to be vectorized, or I want them to be resized to different dimensions, can I take them, have them uploaded to Photopea perhaps, and let it change the sizing, download them as a PNG? Doesn't work. Unfortunately, the agents can't access your hard drive. On top of that, not every single website out there works. For example, Amazon, like I said, they don't let the agents access their marketplace anymore. It used to work a couple of days ago, but now it's not possible. I also tried using the agents to edit some prompt guides that I have on canva.com, but I also kept getting errors there. So if you have some confusing errors that happen whilst the agent is working, it's probably because the service or the marketplace that you're trying to access has blocked the AI agents. But most of the time when I've tried building workflows like this with different websites and tools, it's been absolutely fine, and it's going to save me a ton of hours, and tedious, boring work is going to be erased now, which is always amazing. I'm super excited to keep playing around with these and think of more automated workflows. I hate to break it to you, but one day we're all going to die. Which is why I'm all about speed and automation. If there's a way to be more productive and efficient when creating t-shirt designs, I'm all over it. And typically, once I'm done with my research, my go-to tool for creating AI designs is MyDesigns. So let me show you 5 productivity hacks that I regularly use in my favorite tool. If you're wondering how to create best-selling t-shirt designs really quickly and efficiently without needing subscriptions to loads of different AI tools, then you've come to the right video. Because Dream AI inside of MyDesigns has just had a major upgrade and it's now even better than it already was. For example, we've got this baseball mom design and the prompt is right here on the left-hand side. We can now just click on scale the prompt and then put some simple instructions like scale this out to 10 most popular sports in the USA. We'll hit scale on this and it will swap out the word baseball and the baseball graphic to other sports, keeping the rest of this the same in terms of the style and the phrase. You can see the result on the left right here where we've now got soccer mom, we've got basketball, baseball, football, and everything else has pretty much stayed the same in these prompts. They're all separated by a line break right here, meaning that if we have parallel prompts enabled, we can pick our AI art generator of choice. I've picked the ChatGPT 4o model in this case, and then if you hit Dream, it's going to take every separate line right here as a prompt and generate them all simultaneously, which is super powerful because as you can see, within a couple of minutes, I've now got multiple designs right here in the same style. We've got soccer mom, basketball mom, tennis mom, golf, football, and it carries on. And this was super easy and would have taken way longer if we actually used ChatGPT for this. And this is not the only choice of models that you have inside of Dream AI. If you prefer ideogram, that is also built in to this generator. We've got different models of ideograms. You can even use version 2a if you want to. There is different flux models right here that get really good results. We've got Recraft as well, which some of you might remember from a video I did in the past. This can even generate vectors as well. So you can straight up generate vector art with AI at scale right here with this new feature that they've built into Dream AI. And then there's also legacy models that are hidden behind this drop down. Some of these are a bit older and don't get the greatest results, but if you, for example, prefer Flux Def or Flux Pro or ideogram version 2, they are all hidden behind this as well if you really want to use them. Now you might be saying, Philip, I'm not very good at writing prompts. I struggle with coming up with these right here. How can I still take advantage of this really cool feature and all of the models inside of Dream AI without writing the prompts? And they've also thought of that because now we have essentially a describe feature right here. That's this top button. So even if you're starting from a blank canvas, you can click on this right here. You can choose a file from your device. For example, let's say I found this t-shirt design doing really well on Amazon. I just uploaded a screenshot and there we go. Now we have a prompt for that and we can once again scale it out. So if I don't want an eagle in this, but I want to keep the same style, I could say scale this out to 10 other popular animals such as raccoons, cats, and creatures like Bigfoot or unicorns. And now once again, I'll click scale on this and there we have it. It's done the job for us. Don't worry if you don't have an actual line break like this in between the prompts. It will still recognize the fact that there is like a new paragraph right here. Sometimes it just does that, but it still works with the parallel prompt. In this case, maybe let's try ideogram, see what it does. So we'll select version 3 for ideogram right here. You can also change the aspect ratio. So if you prefer getting more of a portrait image or result to fill out that print area more easily, you can also change that. You can turn down the amount of images that are being generated to save some credits. So if you just want one result per prompt, you can do that. If you want the full whack and 4 images for every single prompt in this box, you can turn that up as well, but it does affect the amount of credits that are being used. Speaking of credits, you don't need a subscription to use Dream AI. You can actually do pay as you go or top up credits as and when you need them. You don't need to be subscribed to MyDesigns. A lot of the features within MyDesigns also have to do with selling on Etsy or selling on Shopify, not just with the amount of credits right here for this Dream AI art generator. So if you only want to use this, I would just pay as you go. Let's also go ahead and turn off the magic prompt right here because I want all of these prompts to stay exactly the same. And then we'll go ahead and hit Dream again, see what it gives us this time with ideogram 3.0. And here we go. We've got a fox, a unicorn as well, a panda, a dolphin, which I wouldn't have thought of myself, Bigfoot looks pretty cool too. Got a raccoon. I'm not too sure about this effect around the edges right here, but it could still probably sell on a t-shirt. And we've got a lion, and for some reason the cat is an actual photo, just proving to you as well that this is still AI. You're still using AI models, so they're never perfect, but for the most part these are some really decent results. Another great thing about MyDesigns is that even if you're not subscribed to them, you can just come to their homepage, which I will have a link to in the description. You can click on Dream right here and it will show you a library of lots and lots of designs right here for all of the different models, and by default it just shows the most recent ones. But what I would recommend to you is filter these right here by the model that you use most commonly. So you could filter out ideogram results. If you click on GPT image 1, it will just give you the ChatGPT 4o results, and within that you can even still select most likes or most views to see some of the best results that people have published right here. And this will not just give you inspiration but also help you find prompts once again, because let's say you want to get ready for Halloween. Well, I've just found this result right here for Ghoul Gang. I think that looks pretty cool, and we can take this prompt, we can copy it, put it into Dream AI and have it scaled out to other animals. Once again, this looks pretty good with ducks, but I could also see it working with raccoons, with capybaras, maybe some cats. So you can find a lot of prompts right here. I've just found this result as well in the Imagen 4 section, which is a model that's not to be underrated. It gets some really nice looking results, as you can see. And once again, this says Ferrogull Summer, really cool graphical style, and I could easily see this working with other animals as well, or potentially other phrases, right? So you could copy this prompt, throw it into Dream AI and say, keep the graphic the same, just give me some new funny phrases related to summer. Or take this example where I've used the prompt for a bow and had it scaled out to different fruits and floral patterns. And now what I can do as well inside of MyDesigns is I can select all of my favorite results. So let's just go through some of these right here, select all the ones that I want to actually use in MyDesigns, and then once you're done, you can go ahead and save these to the current folder that you have selected in the listings tab. And you can even simultaneously use the background remover and their upscaler right here whilst you're hitting save. This will cost some credits to use the upscaler and the background remover, but it essentially combines everything and does it for you in one step. And there we have it. About 20 seconds later, I have switched to the listings tab right here, and as you can see, we've got all of the bows ready with the background already removed, and these have been upscaled to 4000 by 4000 pixels. You can alternatively as well vectorize within MyDesigns. You don't have to use the upscaler. If I had kind of left that box unchecked, I could now select all of these, go to quick actions, and then choose vectorize image, which this actually uses Vectorizer AI, which, as you guys know, is one of my favorite vectorizers out there with really good high quality results. And once you're happy with the graphics that you have in here, you can either use MyDesigns straight away to sell them on Etsy, Shopify, or WooCommerce, or if you want to go elsewhere, you can go back to quick actions, download right here, and then either have them downloaded as a zip file or just individually to a folder of your choice. MyDesigns is fantastic and it's part of my daily workflow. However, it can also be a little bit hard to use, especially for beginners. So if you're looking for a more user-friendly AI art generator, you might actually be better off with Mystic. It's another tool that is designed for speed and efficiency. It's built by and for print-on-demand sellers, and it's got some pretty amazing features up its sleeve. Mystic has had a major update. They've added thousands of new templates that look way better than the old ones, and it's now also a lot easier to remix these templates or come up with completely new t-shirt designs from scratch. So in this video, I'm going to share some tips and tricks with you on how to use Mystic effectively. So the first thing you'll notice is that the interface has changed. So now we're starting off on the templates page right here. You still have the prompt bar at the top, but this has also been simplified. You now have the model 2.0 right here. You can still go back to the old one if you want. And the templates, at first glance, you will see they look a ton better. These look like they come out of ChatGPT 4o, which is one of the best AI models right now, at least in my opinion. So it's definitely nice to see that they've kind of moved over to that model for their templates. And then you've got categories right here to filter through. You also get a bit of a preview if you hover over them, which is really handy, because if you're looking for a specific style or specific niche, for example, you want to create music designs, you can just have a ton of templates right here that are specifically made for that niche. You can then For example, if you wanted a design similar to this style right here, you could say, click on this, go to bulk action, hit remix, and now you can describe what you want to change or what you want to use this template for. So you could say something like, remake this with funny phrases for female guitar players. And then you've got a bunch of extra settings down here. So you can change the product type if you want to design for a poster or a mug instead. You can also apply a different style if you want to from these presets. If you don't do this, it will just automatically choose the style that you have in the template that you selected. You can change the format as well. So if you wanted more of a square design rather than a portrait, you have the option, and then you can change the amount of designs that are being generated. Let's just set that to 5. And then if we hit remix, it tells you how many credits this uses. Then we'll add this to the designs queue on the left-hand side, generate in the background. Another thing I wanted to show you and explain about these categories is that the other categories besides t-shirts also have a ton of really good designs in them. So these sticker designs are awesome. So don't just stick to t-shirts. Many of these can be usable for t-shirt designs as well, even if it says stickers. Same goes for mugs. So there's a ton of really good looking mug designs, and that's another thing that often transfers onto other products as well. Even the logos category, to be fair, even though it's more simplistic, it definitely has some really cool like badge layouts in this and nice little designs that I could also see working on a t-shirt. So don't underestimate the other categories is what I'm trying to say. And even within these categories, you can still filter down further and look at very specific poster styles. For example, if you want to create some anime designs, you can have those filtered out right here, or some pet posters. Maybe you want to create designs for displayed, then this is a good place to look. Now let me show you a couple of unique examples of how to use these templates right here, and then I will also show you how to just start from scratch with a prompt at the top. You don't have to use these templates, but they are definitely a good starting off point. For example, one that I really like the look of is this one right here, you complete me. It's a subtle message of obviously toast and egg fitting well together, but what if you wanted similar designs with that same concept, right? Maybe other food and drink that work well together with that phrase. Well, you can do that once again by highlighting the template, going to bulk actions, remix, and then you could say something like, keep the text the same and swap out the graphics for other food and drink that fits well together. And then once again, we'll just do this for 5 designs, and it should hopefully give us 5 different new ideas based on this original template, which is a really cool way to come up with some like new, unique, creative designs. Meanwhile, let's go to the design tab and see what generated before. So here we've got the guitar designs. This girl shreds harder than your ex. That's a pretty good one. Girls just want to have guitars on the left, guitar queen on the right, breaking strings, and stereotypes. So those are some pretty cool phrases that is added to it. I don't love the fact that all the text is underneath, but that's how it was in the template, right? So if you wanted to have a different layout, or maybe you wanted this to be a different color font entirely, then you have to tell the AI that. So let's select this as well, try bulk action, remix, and say, keep the graphic the same, but change the text color to brown and have this girl shreds above the graphic and harder than the X below the graphics. So being quite specific there of what I want. That way I don't have to do it multiple times if it gets it wrong. So hopefully that should do it. Meanwhile, these graphics have generated, so you can kind of see how with Mystic you can create or generate a lot of graphics very quickly by remixing templates, and then they'll be added to the queue right here. And it's kind of a fast way to get a ton of ideas out there very quickly. So we've got you complete me right here with what looks like sushi and maybe matcha tea. This is probably meant to be pancakes, I don't know. And we've got a donut and coffee, burger and fries. That makes sense. You get the gist here. The designs look very similar, but they swapped out the graphics, which is really cool. And some of these could probably work well for POD. Here's another example of a template that I want to try and remix. So don't be a dumb Ash. It's kind of a funny pun right there related to barbecue. So if you go to bulk actions right here, remix this and say, just simply remake this design with other puns. And then once again, let's turn this up to 5, hit remix. And if you have location-based designs, these are also very easy to remix. So this one, for example, right here, go to bulk actions and then say remake this for other American states. In this case, I would just change this to square. I don't think it needs to be portrait necessarily. And then once again, we'll click remix and it gets added to the queue. So going back to designs, here is our guitar design that's been regenerated. Let's take a closer look at that. This girl shreds harder than your ex, and yep, the layout is a lot better now in my opinion. It looks a lot more balanced, and obviously the text now also works better with the graphic, and these are going to work on on like shirts if you remove the background. Speaking of, I've heard that removing the background is now free, or it doesn't cost any credits. So you can do that if you click into the image right here in the bottom right corner, just click remove background, and then it'll load for a little bit. There we go. That's done a pretty good job, to be honest, for an automated background remover. And then you can also hit upscale at the same time, which doesn't cost you any credits either. So they've kind of simplified the system a lot. You just use credits for generating graphics. It tells you at the top how much it costs, and these other processes right here don't cost anything. Whilst you're in this window, by the way, you can still change the style, so you can still apply different style preset to this current design if you want to keep the phrase and everything the same, but just have it for a different aesthetic. And you can also change the size right here to square or landscape, and you can go backwards as well if you're not happy with the new step, and kind of, go back to the previous one and download that instead. So now that it's been upscaled, you can hit download in the top right corner and it'll be saved to your device. Meanwhile, the other designs finished. So here we've got espresso yourself, we've got your one in a melon, do not worry, be happy. So in this case, it didn't change out the graphic to donut, so that's probably something you would have to specify as well. I think I only said remake this with a new pun. I didn't say swap out the graphic as well. I did that occasionally, like in some of these designs, but not on all of them. So if you want to be more exact and get the right results, then you need to add that to the prompt. Here we've got the bull design refresh for other states. That definitely looks pretty cool. This will probably work better with an alligator, but once again, that's something that you'd have to specify. I just said switch it to different states, and it's definitely done that very effectively with that existing template. But what if you want to actually start from scratch with your own prompt and you don't want to use these templates? You can input very detailed prompts into this. I've tried that out. If you have something very specific in mind, in that case, I would recommend turning the magic prompt setting off. But if you want to stay more simple, which I think is the intention with Mystic, is they're trying to make it as easy as possible to get sort of print ready or POD ready designs without having to write long prompts. In that case, you can just simply put something like create some cute cow designs with puns added as text, and then let's go and configure some of these settings. So I'll choose t-shirt for the product. The style, perhaps we could go with floral in this case. I'll change the size right here to portrait. By the way, you can see that this uses 1.5 credits, whereas Square uses 1 credit per image. So be aware of that when you're changing the scale right here. But I'll choose portrait for this example. I'll leave the magic prompt on. That way it's going to expand on this very simple prompt that I've put, and I'm going to change this number to 5 designs right here. Hit generate on this, and let's also do another one for a different niche. Let's say you wanted to create some designs for people that really like music, but in this case, instead of the floral theme, maybe we'll do something that's better for men. So let's do create some funny designs for men who like music with funny phrases. And the reason I'm adding that here is because sometimes if you don't tell it to add text or to add phrases, then it doesn't do that. So let's go with t-shirt again, floral. We can change that maybe to retro sunset. I'll change this to square in this example, and we'll hit generate again. And here are a few examples of the cow designs that I got. So legendary, I think, looks really, really cool. It definitely has that floral feel as well. Then we've got moveless, pretty cool. Nice little pun right there. Nice simple floral design. We've got are you amused in this sort of pocket style, which is actually really creative. I kind of thought of that with flowers coming out of it as well. And then utterly adorable. So pretty good results, I think, right there, considering we gave the AI a lot of freedom and not many directions really, other than, add some puns to this, make it floral. And here we've got some of the music designs. So I paused my music for nobody. I think that's pretty cool. I was expecting pause my music to be here, that typical gaming phrase, but that definitely looks nice. Then we've got air guitar champion, which is pretty cool as well. Dad bod rock god, which is another cool idea. Very nice phrase right there. And we've got bass drop beard pop, which rhymes as well. That's always good. So yeah, some pretty interesting results based on a very simple, easy prompt. So don't underestimate using the prompt bar essentially up here, because it can give you some amazing results. But obviously, if you're not too creative or you prefer starting off with an actual template, then you have tons and tons of options right here. Another quick bonus tip as well. If I go back to the designs section right here, then one way to stay organized if you're creating designs for lots of different styles or different niches is with bookmarks. So for example, if I select these 3 state themed designs right here, I can click on bookmark and then create a new collection. And then you can say American states and have everything saved under that. If we hit create, then that's now a new collection that we have. And yeah, you can kind of that way stay more organized, and you can switch or change your collection right here at the top. So if we go to Daxon, for example, this is, I think, results from the old model still, and you also have the option to filter between different product types that you generated, and you also have right here generations and remixes if you want to look at the different types of ways to generate graphics there. Before I show you a brand new free AI model which might be the best for print on demand, one important thing we haven't touched on yet is vectorization. This is personally my preferred method of making designs print ready. One big reason being that you can easily remove backgrounds whilst vectorizing. So without further ado, here is my current workflow. The days of struggling to remove backgrounds are finally over. Vectorize AI has added a feature that lets you disable your background color with a simple click of a button. This is way easier than using Photopea, Photoshop, or even Adobe Illustrator to get rid of that background in a clean manner. And I truly believe that this is right now the best method to both increase quality, but also have a clean result and have your background removed from your AI art. So I'm right here on Vectorize AI. I'll have a link to this site in the description as well. And it's as easy as dragging and dropping your design into this. I'm dropping a file that is just 1024 by 1024 pixels. So the typical format that you get out of AI art generators. And it takes a few seconds and then vectorizes it. This is no news. I've shown this process before many times. If you zoom in right here, you can see the pixelated version that you had before, and you can see the clean vector as the end result. And this is definitely a really good method to increase quality of your graphics, but previously I would have still downloaded this, then moved it into Adobe Illustrator and fiddled around with a lot of different tools and settings to get rid of this background. Especially with more complex graphics, it would still have been a little bit difficult to get rid of that background color. But now we can do all of this inside of Vectorize right here by clicking on the colors first of all in the top left corner, and then you've got the choice right here of the palette of how many colors you want this graphic to have. In some cases I would recommend turning this down just to see can you reduce the colors without losing too much detail, because the more colors, the more kind of complicated and harder to digest the graphic is. Ideally with t-shirt design, you want to stick to a lower amount of colors. So I think in this case, 5 colors is good because I want to keep this highlight right here. And now we can actually click on this background color specifically, which I think is this one right here. And we can then click this little check mark right here, and there we go. It's just taken it off. And as you can see, we have a transparent background already. I can enable this again so you can see the before and after, and you might have to click a few times if you're not sure what the actual background color is. Like this one looks very similar to, but in this case it removes the inside of the s'mores right here. So we'll enable that again and go right here. That removes the background effectively. And then it's just a case of clicking this check mark. It will refresh or reprocess your design, and then we can click download right here. I typically change the shape stacking to stack shapes on top of each other, and I also clip the overflow right here, and the rest of the settings can stay the same. And then we can download this and now just draw it into Photopea and kind of shortcut the process a lot. You don't need to go into Illustrator. Let me just show you this as well. So I'll create a new project right here. I'll have Photopea linked as well. I'll give it the correct dimensions. I'll make the background transparent and hit create. And then I'll open up the SVG file that we just downloaded. There we go. It already has the background removed. I'm not used to seeing this when dragging in an SVG file yet, so it still kind of amazes me a little bit.
It's so beautiful.
But there we go, and as you can see, there's no like white edge ghosting effect going on right here. It's a very, very clean background remove. And the thing is, we can now just save this with this free version of Photopea right here, and it's ready for print. So we've taken out that step of removing backgrounds and made it super easy with, oh no, that's share, sorry, export as PNG. Made it super easy with Vectorizer. You might be thinking, well, this graphic is super easy. What does it look like if the graphic is more complex? Well, let me show an example for that as well. So I've got this one right here with a skeleton, which typically, if you were, especially if you're using Photopea for this or Photoshop, you would really struggle removing all of the white, especially in this book right here. We've got so many pixelated details of the background color. It would be a tough time getting rid of the background or this kind of shadow right here with lots and lots of tiny gaps. And yes, you can vectorize this and then remove it in Adobe Illustrator, but that is still an additional step, an additional program, and it's also not just one click of a button. But now let me drag this into Vectorizer right here. I'll wait for it to process. Then I'll click on the colors in the top left. Now it says 3 colors right here, but really this should only be black and the background color. So I'll change it to 2 colors, and now we can click on the beige right here, which is clearly the background color. We can disable this check mark and zoom in, and as you can see, everything, I mean, it still looks pixelated now because it's just a preview, but as you can see, there's no color left in between these tiny little gaps right here. It's all been perfectly removed. Let's refresh this as well and look at it more closely once it's actually vectorized. And here we go. You can zoom in and you can see that everywhere we've got an amazing result. We've got smooth curves, no remains of any beige color, and if I hover over it, you can see how tight some of these spaces were in terms of the low pixel size right here. So yeah, amazing result with a very, very simple just modification right here in the colors section. And we can now once again hit download. It should have saved the shape stacking and gap filler settings right here for you, and then you can click download and draw it into your tool of choice. Photo P was just an example because it's free, but obviously if you work with Photoshop, with Illustrator, Kittle, whatever it is, you can still draw the graphics into there and carry on resizing it to the right dimensions. And even if you have a more complex graphic that has a lot of colors in it, it still does a good job. I've tested this as well with other graphics, not just single color, if that's something you're wondering about. So let's wait for this one right here. Right, I'll click on the colors again, just choose black, and there we go. There's another black left right here, so we'll just disable that as well, and perfect. Now that's all we had to do, and we can refresh this, and there we go. Now we can use it straight away in our tool of choice.
Did you know that bananas can create incredible AI t-shirt designs? Well, since Google's recent AI update, they actually can. They released a model called Nano Banana, and it absolutely blew me away. And the best thing is, right now, it's free to use. Let me show you how. Google's new AI art model called Gemini 2.5 Flash, also known as Nano Banana, is a game changer for print on demand, and I think it takes the throne for the best model that you can use right now. And in this video, I'm going to show you why it might just make you cancel your ChatGPT subscription. So I've been using the new Nano Banana model inside of Google AI Studio and LM Arena. I've been running them all morning and I've not run into any rate limits. So I'll have a link to both of them down below. Just a quick tutorial though for LM Arena, because it's not very obvious how to use the model. You need to change the mode up here from battle to direct chat, and then you also need to enable generate images down here, and then you can change the model. You can just type in Nano and then it will come up straight away, and you can enter a prompt, attach an image, etc. Now in the Google AI Studio, it's very straightforward. You just type a prompt down here or attach an image and it uses Nano Banana straight away. But what I've also got open right here is a ChatGPT 5 tab, because I want to run the same exact prompts at the same time so that you can kind of see a comparison of which of these tools is more accurate and also which one of them is faster, because GPT, if you've ever tried to generate images with it, you probably know it's not the fastest. So let's start off right here inside of the Google AI Studio. I'm going to attach a nurse design right here with kind of a teal floral pattern embedded into it and a bow underneath, and I'll say change the pattern to pink. So very simple conversational prompt, and we'll do the exact same inside of ChatGPT 5. This is because so far I've been using ChatGPT 5 a lot because I think it's really good at this. It's just a simple conversation and you can make changes, you can scale out a style to something else, but as you can see, this model is already done. So just in the time it took me to paste the prompt in here, this is already finished. It took 9.6 seconds and the result is fantastic. So it's changed everything to pink. The pattern, if you look at the original, looks almost identical. There's no real changes to the pattern itself, and it's just changed the color like I asked it to. Meanwhile, this right here is still getting started. So let's go ahead and make another change to this. Let's say change the text to teacher. And if we hit run, it's going to start its response right here. It has a counter as well of the seconds that it's taking, which is quite cool because ChatGPT doesn't have that. And now we've got teacher with the exact same style, the exact same color scheme. Nothing else has been amended except the word at the top is spelled correctly and looks really, really good. Meanwhile, this is only just starting to generate the top of this image right here to change it to pink. So I think this is starting to show you the power of this new model. Let's go ahead and say change the pattern to cherries, right? So completely change it, not just the color. This should be a little bit more complex, and hit run. By the way, this step took 12 seconds, so not much more than this first initial change that we made. ChatGPT still thinking, still generating right here. It's about halfway done. And there we go. It's finished now. It's changed it to pink, but it's also made it look worse in a way. For some reason, this is now like a gray or black, like almost like a silvery glitter effect. The pattern in the word nurse has like black strokes in it. I don't really understand that. I only wanted the design to be changed to pink, not to black and like silver as well. So it's done a job, somewhat changed the color, taken way longer, and kind of messed it up for us. So not the greatest first step right here, but let's carry on with the next one and say change the text to teacher, and we'll send that off. Meanwhile, if we go back to this right here, it's finished and it's added cherries to the word teacher. Looks pretty decent. I would have hoped to also see it in the side of the bow, but at least it was quite quick. 10 seconds right here just to change the pattern in the text to cherries. How about adding text to this? We've not tested that yet, so add the words EST 2025 underneath the bow. If we run that now, again, this is something that ChatGPT is pretty good at. You can easily add things to your design without having to, edit a prompt or pull it into a design software. So let's see how this does. 12 seconds right here, and it's added established 2025 underneath. It's even matched the font style, that kind of college font, to the word. So pretty good job with that. Meanwhile, this is finished generating, so that felt a little bit quicker. We now have the word teacher right here, and the bow is improved, which is quite surprising. It looks completely different to what we had here, and it's definitely changed the words effectively. So I'm actually pretty happy with this result now, and it kind of shows the difference between the two tools, because ChatGPT with every step, not only does it do what I ask it in the prompt, but it also regenerates the entire image. It completely changed the bow, even though we didn't really tell it to do that. Whereas Gemini, if you look at the transition from step to step right here, it just does what we tell it to do. It doesn't change this bow down here if we just want the word teacher changed. It doesn't regenerate any of that. It keeps it the same, which is pretty good. So let's try change the pattern to cherries inside of ChatGPT 5. Meanwhile, let's try put these designs onto a t-shirt mockup, and we'll actually combine a few of these. So I'll drag this in here with the established number. I'll also take the one without and just the cherry pattern, and then this pink one right here, and we'll just combine them all in one t-shirt mockup. Hit run on this. This is something that's been really impressive with Gemini, because I'm pretty sure ChatGPT 5 cannot do this. Let's see what's happened right here. Change the pattern to cherries, has finished generating, but I can't see any cherries.
No cherry.
Has anything even changed? Not really. The text right here has some funky, weird, strokes in it now, but they don't look like cherries. The bow looks pretty much the same. So yeah, not too impressed with that. Don't know why. Maybe it's kind of in the nature of ChatGPT that the longer you go on in a chat, that the less it, pays attention to your prompt.
Hey, wake up!
That's been my experience, at least. I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but maybe it's down a rabbit hole right here and it can't get out of it again. Let's try the next step though, adding these words. So we'll hit run on that as well. And meanwhile, the t-shirt mockup right here is finished. And so we do have all of these designs on separate mockups. Actually, this one has cherries in it when I think the one we attached didn't. But as you can see, it combined 3 separate design files into one mockup. What if we say, make this into more of a lifestyle mockup, hit run again. And by the way, this took 17 seconds. So it's a little bit slower when it comes to generating an actual mockup. The design changes up here took about 10 to 12 seconds each. Meanwhile, adding the words right here, it's still getting started as usual, taking forever. And we already have a lifestyle mockup. Now it's only one design right here. I did want all 3, but I do think that looks pretty decent. It knew to add kind of a classroom setting, and it looks fairly realistic with this shadow right here in the design. But let's try put all 3 designs in the same lifestyle mockup. Let's see if it understands that command, even though the designs weren't attached to that prompt. Meanwhile, this is finished generating, and we do now have somewhat of a representation of cherries in this. It looks a little bit strange, and it's probably, if you zoomed out, you're not going to be able to tell that these are cherries in the text because they're quite small and smudged, but it has added the word established 2025 underneath. But you can see how this is way more random. It just doesn't really follow the prompt here, and then suddenly cherries appear even though we just wanted to add some words. So it's all over the place, and it takes a lot longer than Gemini, which is frustrating because I haven't paid a dime to Gemini yet, but I've been paying a lot of money to ChatGPT. Meanwhile, this right here now says the content is blocked. I'm not sure why, but anyway, if you're not happy with a result like this, a quick tip is you can also hit rerun. So if you click that, it should regenerate the entire image, which is actually quite a good option because it's a lot faster than it would be elsewhere. So within 10 to 20 seconds, you have a new option to choose from. Now, it's still not put all designs together, but I think you can see that it's made changes to the mockup itself right here. But anyway, let's try the same thing with ChatGPT. I've attached 3 of its designs right here and said, put these onto a t-shirt mockup, see what happens with that. We'll let it generate, and meanwhile, we'll compare the 2 results right here. So on the left, we've got Gemini 2.5 Flash, and on the right, ChatGPT 5. Now, one important detail is this one on the right took like 3 times as long to generate and was a complete headache. On the left was very smooth and quick. I personally think this on the left stands out more in the sense that you can actually see the cherry pattern. We've got the font at the bottom that matches the top phrase or the text at the top a lot better. And on the right, everything just kind of blurs into one. You can't see cherries. Everything is a very similar hue of pink. And the words at the bottom don't really match the college style. And considering the one on the right hand side took a lot longer, in my opinion, the left wins this easily. But if you've got a different opinion, drop it in the comments down below. Meanwhile, ChatGPT didn't really understand the assignment and just used one of the designs and placed it on a mock-up, but I think you can also tell that it doesn't really look like these designs. It's regenerated the design itself. If we look at the old result right here from Gemini, this actually understood the prompt a lot better and actually merged all of them into separate t-shirt mockups right here in this same photo. And whilst I prefer the kind of wooden flat lay mockup style, Gemini just did something that's way more impressive in this case. So I've got a pocket style design right here of a goose wearing a sombrero, and it's in this American flag themed pocket. So I'll try some different prompts and again compare Gemini to ChatGPT. One more side note though, if you struggle with removing backgrounds, I would recommend sticking around to the end of the video because Gemini or Nano Banana can actually help you with making background removal more easy, especially if you have very complicated backgrounds. So stay tuned for that, but let's go ahead and say, change the sombrero to a baseball cap, the animal to a raccoon, and the flag to Brazil. And then we'll take that, we'll hit run, and do the exact same thing right here with GPT-5 selected. So this is getting started. Meanwhile, this is already finished, and yeah, it's done it perfectly. We've got a baseball cap, we've got a raccoon, and we've got the Brazilian flag. It looks very, very accurate, and it's stayed very close to the original style. We've even got the hands right here. That's been taken over by the raccoon's paws, so I'm pretty impressed with that. Meanwhile, this is still generating as expected, but what about a more simple prompt? So if we just said, make this Christmas themed, what would it come up with? No real direction there. I'm imagining like a Christmas hat and more Christmassy colors perhaps, but let's see what it does for us. Meanwhile, this is still getting started. And let's watch this page right here, getting up to 10 seconds, and it's finished. We've now got the raccoon wearing a Santa hat. It's wearing gloves as well, which is an interesting idea. And the Brazilian flag has a Christmas tree inside it. All right, that's something that I wouldn't have come up with myself. It does look kind of strange if you zoomed out. You can't really tell what's going on with the flag, and it maybe obstructs the flag a little bit, but still, it's done a good job. These are actual stars, not just smudges, and I'm pretty impressed with that. What about, let's make it more suitable for Independence Day. Maybe it can come up with some ideas to completely change the style to July the 4th. Let's take a look at ChatGPT. It's still not finished anything. Can't even see the top of the image. There we go. That's the baseball cap, I'm guessing. But as you can see, it's incredibly slow. So let's look at this, and now it's started to mess up. Okay, so it's not perfect. It does eventually start to break. I didn't really want the Brazilian flag to still be there. It makes no sense, right? But what about make this Halloween themed? Does it maybe swap out the animal for a ghost? Does it still keep the Brazilian flag? I don't know. We're going to find out. At least testing things right here is a lot quicker. Wow. Okay, that's pretty impressive. I'm very, very happy with that. Meanwhile, this is now finished. Yay. So we do have a raccoon wearing a baseball cap, and it has taken the Brazilian flag and placed it there. So that's actually a good job. It's just taken way, way longer than anything else. what if we now told it to make this Christmas themed? Can it come up with a better idea than we had right here from Gemini 2.5? And what if we say add a funny, suitable phrase? I'm really curious if this AI is any better at coming up with funny phrases than ChatGPT would be, and also how it lays this out, because it doesn't necessarily know this for a t-shirt. So let's see what happens. Let's actually make it English instead. That would help. Meanwhile, the Christmas theme design right here is still getting started. So if you're still not contemplating at least trying out this new Google model, I don't know what you're doing. You probably don't really value your time, because this is horrible. I love this result, but considering the one inside of here just looks just as good and took a fraction of the time, I think Gemini is the way forward. So now we've got a new one right here, Halloween Candy Heist. Not sure if that's particularly funny, but it has added some text right there. It's also not very easy to read, so it's not perfect, and it does fall apart with very, very basic prompts perhaps, but I think changing this style right here, it's shown that it does a pretty good job most of the time. And there we go. So we now finally have the Christmas themed raccoon. Not sure about the pocket. It doesn't really feel like Christmas to me. I know it has the right colors, but yeah, just a star is not really Christmas themed enough. You could have put a tree there or something more relatable. So yeah, it's done an all right job. I do like the Santa hat, but besides that, it wasn't really worth waiting 3 minutes for. And it does kind of feel like watching paint dry when that slider really slowly goes down. It reminds me of the old days of the internet where you had to wait for a web page to load, like pixel by pixel. That's how ChatGPT 5 or the GPT Image 1 model feels. Another example where Gemini is really useful for print on demand and better than ChatGPT is customizing designs. So let's say you've got an Etsy or a Shopify customer that sent you a picture of their dog. So I've got this image of Milo right here, and I've just requested for it to be turned into a detailed sketch, in brackets, just the dog. And within just 8 seconds, we got this result, which looks fantastic. Definitely looks like Milo. I could have probably also told it to add the name Milo underneath, but anyway, now turn it into a cartoon superhero, in case that's kind of a custom offering you want to put on Etsy. And I think, again, it does look like Milo. It does have some of its features, has the same pose, and it even came up with a bone right here for the Superman logo. Instead of copying a brand, it just replaced that with something else, which is quite cool. Then I said, show him floating in space in a realistic photo style. That didn't really work out the way I had planned, but then I just attached this photo again and said, show him floating in a pool on a flamingo floaty, which actually looks pretty realistic with the different lighting, and it still looks like Milo. And then I said, give him a sombrero and a pina colada, which also looks pretty funny, and it still looks like Milo. Same thing with ChatGPT. This took me about 10 minutes instead of 2 minutes with Gemini. The sketch right here looks good. I'm not going to say that looks worse than Gemini. I think it's a really good sketch. Then I told it to make this into a superhero design, which it did. It took forever, but I'm not really keen on the fact that there's actual superhero logo there, and it doesn't look like Milo anymore, whereas the other one definitely looked like Milo. And then I said, show him floating in a pool, again with the flamingo floaty, and it didn't really understand that. It turned him into a cartoon version. So I said, nope, I wanted it to look photorealistic, which it then did, but as you can probably see, it doesn't look like Milo anymore. It just looks like a generic dachshund, at least to me. Maybe it's not obvious to you, but with these customized listings or offerings, it is obviously important to be more accurate. And whilst this does look like a cool photo of a dog in a pool and floaty, it doesn't really look like the reference image anymore. Nano Banana is also really good at customizing or editing your mockups. So if you work with mockups a lot, this might just get you around fiddling with your Photoshop and Canva all the time to make changes. So we've got this mockup right here, Spooky Mums Club, caffeine required. We've got 3 skeletons with different hair colors, and they're all holding a coffee cup. So quite a complex design, and it's a black sweater in this mockup. She's holding a mug, fingers are kind of intertwined. So you would think AI would really struggle doing some changes to this mock-up without messing up anything else. And I told it to change the jumper or the sweater color to gray. And if we open this up, it's done that very effectively. The design still says Spooky Mom's Club, caffeine required. It has the different hair colors, the coffee cups, so there's not really much of a change, if at all, in the design. It looks exactly the same. The hand still has 5 fingers. Everything is pretty much the same. The hair has slightly changed, like the angle of the hair up here is now down a bit. But besides that, it's followed the command perfectly of just changing the color of the sweater. And this just took 9 seconds, by the way. Change it into a t-shirt. Also worked. Now it's got no sleeves. It's generated the arms very effectively and it looks very realistic. The design still looks the same. Next step, change the background scene into fall outdoors, and yep, now we've got the face even. I didn't really request that, but it's done a good job of it. Still, the design looks the same. Her hand looks the same. She's sitting on a bench, which makes more sense, and we have kind of an outdoor park right here in the fall. So perfect job for that. And then I said make it close up, and for some reason it went into this blocked content again. Sometimes happens, not sure why. Anyway, same process in ChatGPT. This took me way longer, and the results, as you can see, are not quite the same. So change the jumper to gray. This is the result I got after about 5 minutes probably. And for some reason we have like additional images down here. The jumper is now gray and the design still looks somewhat similar. Next step, change it into a t-shirt. So if I open this up, it's done that all right, but the design is just completely ruined now at this point. So there's no more coffee cups. The faces of these skeletons look horrible. It's not the same design anymore. And the hand right here is also starting to really look weird and deformed, generally looking very plasticky and like flat, not realistic. So already at this stage, just turning it into a t-shirt, the original design is not really recognizable anymore and has completely been altered. So I didn't even bother carrying on because these took way too long to generate. And I think you can clearly see a difference, especially if we open these up side by side right here. So Gemini on the left and ChatGPT is on the right. Now, if you've been generating AI art for a while, then you've probably at one point struggled to remove the background. This is an image that looks pretty cute, very nice style. It has that kind of watercolor feel. But if we look at the edge right here, the background is going to be impossible to remove from this. It's kind of this like foggy, paint splashy outline, and that's very, very tough to do, whether you're using a vectorizer, an upscaler, an automated background remover, Photoshop, it doesn't really matter. All of those fail or struggle massively with this kind of style. What you can do in that case is you can drop the image into Google AI Studio and you can say remove the watercolor splashes, remove the shadow around the graphics, and make sure it's isolated on a solid white background. So very simple prompt, and it doesn't remove the background for you, but it cleans it up. So if we look at the end result right here, this is so much better, and the ghost is unchanged. The ghost and these flowers, the pumpkins, look exactly as they do right here in the original. It's just gotten rid of all of that really horrible, watercolor thing around the edge. So now this is going to be super easy to remove the background, especially with a vectorizer or with Photoshop. If you just select white and get rid of it in all of the surrounding area, you can use Jose's background remover tool as well, which I've spoken about in the past. So yeah, massive change right here, really, really handy. If you try the same thing in ChatGPT, it does kind of do the job, but if we look at this end result, there's still a lot of gray right here, kind of around the edge. So it only does it like halfway for some reason. And if you focus on the ghost as well, it changes it. Like it regenerates the ghost graphic. The pattern right here is not really the same anymore. The colors look different as well. So yes, it helps you out a little bit, but Gemini, again, does way better at a fraction of the speed. Nano Banana is truly mind-blowing, and there's even a way to use it more efficiently in bulk. But before I show you that, let's discuss the best upscaler in the print-on-demand space, because if you're looking for the highest quality prints possible whilst upscaling, this next tool is a must-have. Topaz Gigapixel is one of the biggest names when it comes to AI image upscalers, but it is a paid tool, so I wanted to discover, is it really worth it, and how does it compare to some of the free alternatives out there that I've mentioned in the past, such as DGB or Upscale. So in case you don't know what Topaz Gigapixel is, this is their homepage, or the Topaz Labs homepage, I should say. They've got a variety of different tools. They've got this video one, there's a photo AI, and the one that I'm going to focus on in this video is gigapixel, which is for upscaling images. The way it works is it's a software that downloads to your device, and then you've got the option to either use your own device for the upscaling. That way you don't have to rely on someone else's server and have like a long wait time, how it is with some of the tools out there. And you can also use it in bulk, which is a great benefit. They have a lot of different models, as I'm going to show you in a minute here, and you still have the option to use cloud upscaling. If you don't have the greatest device, you can still upscale some images in bulk through the Topaz Labs service. Essentially, you have the option here for personal and pro, and these are one-off fees. There's no subscription to this. It's just a one-time purchase. Personal might sound like you cannot use it for commercial projects, but that's actually a little bit misleading. If we look at the pricing page right here for Gigapixel 8, essentially the way it works is that the personal version right here is for any businesses with under $1 million US annual revenue. So if you are making over $1 million a year, then you should be using the Pro version right here, which is $500 as a one-off fee. You can also get a trial right here, as you can see, full features, no limited time. To be honest, I don't really know how that works. You probably have a limited amount of images that you can upscale with the trial version. But yeah, the one that I'm going to show you is the Gigapixel 8 Personal. That's the one that I purchased right here. So this is what Topaz Gigapixel looks like once you've got it installed on your device. And the way it works is you either select a folder right here, or you just drag and drop a bunch of images into the tool. So I'm going to do this with 23 in my example, but you can drop more images at the same time. And then what happens is you get one of the images load up right here as an example, and it's going to show what it looks like once upscaled. And you've got the option to kind of flip between different views down here. One that is quite good is the split view, this option, where on the left-hand side, you're going to see the original, and on the right, you will see the upscaled version of the image. You can also use this slider to go across right here, see the before and after, and zoom in really far to kind of compare the before and after in a very detailed area right here. That result already looks pretty decent, and basically all of the effects or the settings that you choose right here on the right hand side, they're going to be applied to all of the images in your list once you hit export. So let me quickly give you an overview of how these settings work, because there is quite a bunch of them and it can be a bit overwhelming. First of all, right here we've got the upscale factor. How many times is the image going to be upscaled? 2x, for example, brings my images up to 2000 pixels because they're starting off at 1000, but it's not really going to improve the quality very much. If you zoom in, you can barely actually tell a difference from the before and after. For print on demand purposes, I would often say just stick to 6x. That's going to bring it up to about 6000 pixels, which is more than good enough for almost every print on demand product out there, unless you're selling on something very large like a shower curtain, for example. You also have the option to go custom and all the way up to 21x. That is the maximum setting that works, but be very careful with that, because not only is it going to take very long to upscale a bunch of images to such a high size, it is also going to make your file size very, very huge. And you can see right here, it's going to turn these images into 21,000 by 21,000 pixel images. So yeah, be careful with that. By the way, you do have an estimate file size shown over here, which says 467 at the moment. I have found that to be very inaccurate. When I upscale these sorts of graphics right here by 6x, they usually turn out between 5 and 10 megabytes if I save them as a JPEG. So yeah, I'm not really sure what this file size is referring to. Maybe it's just guessing the cumulative file size of all of them combined. I don't know. Then you've got the pixel density down here. So this is usually 72 by default, I think. So you can change this to 300 ppi. And then we get into the models that Topaz has on offer. So you can either click on this lightning symbol, which appears in a few places, by the way, and that's going to use AI to choose the most suitable model for your image based on what the AI thinks, right? So in this case, it just chose standard. If you want to test them out though, and kind of see for yourself, you can either click through them right here. So we've got standard, high fidelity, low res, text and shapes, art and CG. Now it's very tough to see a difference just clicking through these, but there's a really cool feature that they've implemented called compare. So if we click on compare, you can actually choose 4 of the models right here, and then you can click compare, and it's going to open up a split view between the 4 different models and show the results in comparison. It takes a while to actually render each model, but from this view right here, I think art in CG doesn't look that great because it has a lot of sort of black around the edge right here. And the top right here, low resolution, we don't have that. It looks very smooth, this line, and doesn't have some weird colors added. Higher fidelity also looks kind of weird, like grainy and a bit like ghosting going on right here at the edge. So in this case, I'm kind of between standard and low resolution whilst we zoomed into that very point right there. And maybe if we zoom in somewhere else, we have a different result. Let's see what this looks like right here. Always takes a little while to be loaded. But again, I think there's a bit of like strange red color right here around this yellow line, which isn't there in these top results. I'm leaning to low resolution V2 right here for this specific graphic, but definitely test this for your own graphics, for your own photos, whatever you're trying to upscale, because in your case, low resolution might not give you the best result. But this is definitely a cool feature to compare. And then you've also got some additional settings over here to increase the sharpening, the denoise, and fix compression. Now, with that, you're going to have to zoom in quite far to notice a difference. At least in my opinion, it's going to be hard to see much of a difference right there, but it's good for fine-tuning your upscale result. You again have the option to use AI to pick a setting for you. Face recovery is not going to be important here because there's no faces in this image, so we can't use any of these features. Then you have gamma correction as an additional setting down here, which you don't need to turn on. And then if this is your favorite model right here, lower resolution V2, you just select that and click apply model. So that's now going to be used for our upscale. Alternatively, you also have these new generative models right here, essentially using AI to reimagine your image at a higher resolution. This is something I've talked about in the past when mentioning DGB LOL and their new feature called AI Retouch. This is essentially the same idea, just built into Gigapixel 8. They've got two models for this called Recover and Redefine, and they do tend to get better results than the base models. The only downside is they do take a lot longer to do the upscaling, especially the Redefine beta model right here, which adds realistic details and is more suitable for photography or stock images and maybe poster designs. For these kind of flat illustrations or more t-shirt designy style, you're going to do better with the Recover setting. But I'm going to compare some of these models later on in the Photoshop section in this part, where I just show different results and compare them with DGB, Upscale, etc. If we wanted to see what the Recover model looks like right here, we can click on Recover and then pre-render just one section of the images. That way you don't have to wait like 3 minutes for the entire thing to be upscaled, and you can already get a glimpse into what the result may look like once you actually export all of these images. It takes a while to actually do this pre-render right here. You have to be a bit patient. You can click preview entire image, but I would be careful. That can take quite a while. So if we zoom in right now, you can see that this is a very crisp result. Does it look better than the low res model? It probably does. It's hard to compare this right here straight within Gigapixel, but I have exported some different versions for some of these images to compare later. So that's how that works with the Recover model. The Redefine one has sort of a bigger square, but I'm not going to show you this one right now because it takes a long time to actually pre-render. You also have a detail slider right here, creativity slider for the Redefine one, because you are reimagining the image. So the more creativity you enable right here, the more it's going to kind of change the image to improve it to a higher quality. So that's what you need to know about these two models. If you do have an image with a face, you can also use the face recovery setting in combination and have it kind of restore faces more accurately. That doesn't apply in this case with this graphic. But once you're happy, once you've found the model that we want to use, I'm not going to use Recover right now in this example because it takes longer, but let's say you wanted to use low res, then you click on Export Images next. It is now going to give you a few options over here in terms of the prefix and the suffix. It's going to use your original file names of these images, and then this is what it's going to look like in the output. So the original file name is in the middle. It's just a bunch of letters and numbers right here for me. I've added the prefix topaz at the beginning with a dash, and then at the end it automatically appends the model and the filters that we've used. So low resolution V2 is the AI upscale model, and then 6x is how many times we're upscaling it. If you don't want this to be added to the end, you can just disable it with this button over here. As you can see, this is just for organizing your files better, essentially. Then we can kind of change right here where this is being saved into, either the original folder or a new one that you set up. And the format right here, you can change to PNG or TIFF as well if you want to, or just preserve the original. I've got JPEG selected. The quality slider, you've got this as well. The higher the quality, obviously the better it looks, but probably also the bigger the file size is going to be. preserve colors, I would just leave at the default, and then you can hit save, and then it's going to run through each one of these files. As you can see, it did still say 400 MB right there for the estimate, but it actually turned out to be 14 MB, at least that's what the estimate says right here. Let's look in the folder quickly. Yeah, so these are turning out around 13 MB right here for these images, scaling them all the way up to 6,000 by 6,000 pixels. Right, so let's get into the nitty gritty right here and compare some of the Topaz models, not just against themselves, but also against some other AI upscalers that I've mentioned a lot in the past. We're starting off right here with the original image. You might remember this from a previous comparison video. And if we zoom in right here, we've got a sort of halftone texture effect going on this koala. And yeah, it's quite a nice style for POD. Now, if we zoom in a little bit right here into this section, first of all, going to show you the low resolution V2 model with a 6x upscale. So that's one of the ones that show the best result for these kind of cartoonish 2D flat vector graphics. This is the original. This is the low res V2 6x upscale. As you can see, it does look a lot crisper, smoother around the edge. This is the original. This is low res. Some of the details I think look kind of strange. Like this has this kind of weird net effect, like fish netting effect going on. It looks more distorted than accurate. It doesn't really look like a halftone effect. If we compare this now, the low res model, to the recover model, so that is the AI, like the regenerating one, that takes a lot longer, but this is recover 6x upscale in comparison right here. So as you can see, it still looks high resolution. You can see it's a lot crisper than the original, but it's done a way better job of actually upscaling this halftone effect. If you look at it, there is some weird ghosting going on right here with it, with this strange color around the edge, which wasn't there in the other model, I think. Well, it was slightly there, but overall, if you zoom out a bit right here, this is low res, and this is the recover, the AI powered model. I think that does look better, even though, you know, you're going to have to wait longer. It does give you better result. If we look at the next model that I've got right here, so this is redefine 6x. That is the one that takes the longest and adds more detail to your graphics. So let's go back up to the face right here. Currently we're looking at recover, generative model, AI model. This is redefine, recover, redefine. Quite a lot more similar than the previous model, but if we zoom in right here on the redefine, it does definitely try and add detail. And in this case, it's a lot of unnecessary detail that we don't really need for these kind of vector graphics of POD. That was to be expected, but I still wanted to show you the result. Like we've got some weird ghosting around here. We've got these kind of textures like dots around the face, almost making it look more realistic, which we don't really need. You can see it as well on the stars right here. There's this weird texture effect going on, which on the recover one looks a lot smoother. And this is low resolution, where it does look even smoother, which is almost a pro, but some of the details kind of get ruined, like this texture effect right here. On recover, it all looked the best in my opinion. So let's compare recover to some of our previous upscalers. Upscale, you can download, you can install it on Windows, and then you can also run that in bulk. And this is one of the best models with a 6x upscale. If you zoom in, this is what Upscale looks like. A lot more similar to the low resolution Topaz one. If we look at that, it kind of has this kind of weird netting effect. This is Upscale we're looking at right now. Let's compare it to recover, which is the best Topaz result. This is recover from Topaz. This is Upscale. Let's look at different bits, maybe these stars right here. Upscale actually looks quite good with these stars, and this is recover. Recover does definitely still add a bit of detail, but some of this stuff has been restored a lot better in my opinion. Let's zoom out a little bit. This is currently recover from Topaz, and this is Upscale. So in some cases, it's personal preference. In my opinion, recover did do a better job right here overall. Another thing that's interesting is DGB has their own sort of AI regenerating upscaler called AI Retouch. I've shown that in a separate video. You have to run AI Retouch and then put it in the 2x upscaler. The only downside there is it takes quite a long time because it's based on their service, right? It's an online upscaler. You don't download anything. You're upscaling the graphics on someone else's device. That's why there's quite a long wait time, because it is free. But they have really good results. From my previous tests, it's definitely one of the best upscalers out there, and it's amazing that we can use it for free. So right now we're still looking at Topaz Recover, which is kind of like the same idea as the DGB Retouch. Let's hide this and look at DGB. So this is DGB right here, using AI Retouch and then a 2x upscale to get it to a total of 6x. Recover DGB. I think whilst DGB looks better than some of the traditional upscalers, it doesn't have this fish netting effect. overall, Recover did do better with this halftone, in my opinion at least. You can leave your opinion down below if you want. This is Recover, this is DGB. Now, the smoothing looks better on DGB, for sure. Recover does add some unnecessary details. Yeah, on the edge right here has some strange ghosting. So this is DGB. So actually this is more of a draw, I would say. DGB has done a really good job with many aspects of this image in comparison to Recover. But again, some of the crucial details of like texture effects and stuff like that do seem to look better with the Topaz upscaler. So it's a bit of a draw right here, which is very impressive from DGB considering it is free. The only downside, again, you have to wait. With Topaz, you can do it. If you have a fast PC, you can do it really quickly, all in bulk. With DGB, you have to wait for a queue to finish upscaling. And as promised, this following video shows you how to use Nano Banana in bulk. My advanced method lets you easily scale out t-shirt designs, styles, and templates, and you can even generate massive sets of mockups at the click of a single button. Nano Banana is now built into Kittle Flows, which not only makes it 10 times faster, but it's also a fraction of the cost in terms of credits. And in this video, I'll show you how to use this new feature. I'll show you how it compares to the previous ChatGPT workflow, and I'll give you some insight about an upcoming event where you can use Nano Banana for free. So I've got a Halloween themed cat design right here on a normal artboard, and I'm now going to click on Smartboard up here, and that will reference my original design, and I can describe a new version of it with a very simple prompt, such as change this to a pug. And then as you can see, the default model now comes up as Nano Banana. ChatGPT image 1 HD, that was the best option before. That took 60 seconds and 42 credits, whereas Nano Banana in comparison only takes 15 seconds and 10 credits instead, and we'll see how the results compare. So if we run this right here, it'll be very quick and it'll turn this design into a pug version. Meanwhile, you can already click on duplicate up here, and that will create a new smartboard underneath with the same prompt, where we could now say, change this to a unicorn, and then we can hit generate as well. Meanwhile, this is finished, and I think that looks perfect. It looks like a pug, and everything else has retained the same. The hat, the pumpkin, everything looks exactly the same as in the original, which is really, really good. Very consistent style there. And the unicorn has also finished, and that looks amazing. Now, this becomes really powerful if you build out a bigger workflow like this one right here. So we've got our cat at the beginning, and then I've turned it into a dachshund, into a T-Rex, into a goose. We've got a frog, capybara, and an axolotl here. And the good thing is all of these prompts and the settings are saved. So you could put something completely different into the front right here of the queue. For example, if we go into the images tab to Kittle AI images and look for something Christmas themed, why not try it with this pig in a sock? So that'll be our new starting off point. I can get rid of this cat graphic now, and I can select all of the smart boards that I've previously generated right here at the same time, and then hit generate again on the right. And within just a few seconds, we now have new versions of this with the right animals as we had them in our prompts, and the style for these looks perfectly like the original. Another thing Kittle Flows has been really useful for is replicating existing styles like this right here onto new shapes. So we've got an example workflow right here. This one using ChatGPT image 1 turns this into a bat, a pumpkin, etc. But the thing is, the style isn't that accurately replicated. So if we look at the details right here, we've got these patches. They're very vibrant, different colors, whereas on these replications, the colors are a lot less versatile, and they're also quite dull and grainy. If you did the same with Nano Banana, which I've done over here, so I've used the exact same workflow, just changed this right here to a different model, then you can see that not only do the colors look a lot more vibrant and similar to the original, you also have these round patches showing up in the design, which is a lot more coherent with this result. So let's actually pull these next to each other right here so we can more easily compare. So you now have on the right hand side the result from Nano Banana, which was way quicker and costs a lot less credits, and on the left hand side we have the ChatGPT version. So you can kind of see the difference here. I think the right clearly looks more colorful and more in line with the input design. Now, besides being able to generate graphics more quickly and easily inside of Kittle, the other reason to use Nano Banana here is if you've generated something, you can quickly convert it to an image and then remove the background because that's built into Kittle. And then you can also vectorize or upscale on the right-hand side. And within a few seconds, you have a high quality graphic that you can use within your designs and that will print well on t-shirts without having to go to lots of other services and external tools. And you can now even click on a graphic, say AI chat right here in this floating toolbar, and then ask it questions related to your graphic, such as what might be a funny phrase to go with this graphic for a t-shirt. And then if we hit send, this is essentially like a chat GPT conversation that you can have whilst designing with your design tool at hand. So give me 10 more ideas right here. And again, you don't have to go to a separate window. You can do everything inside of Kittle. So now we've got a ton of sentences right here that we could add to this graphic, either by generating it with AI or by adding it with the Kittle text functions. But what about restyling designs? So I've been testing this quite a bit, having an existing design right here and then adjusting it to something else like the kawaii style or like a watercolor style, which this example is once again ChatGPT image 1, and it did a pretty good job of that. Especially the kawaii version looks amazing in my opinion, and this one at the bottom isn't that cool for t-shirts because of the background, but besides that it's hit the pop art style. Now again, I copied the same workflow and then just changed the model to Nano Banana, and here are the results. If we pull these side by side, I don't know, I think in this case ChatGPT is better at restyling. This doesn't really look like a watercolor version. The kawaii one looks a bit strange, and the left definitely is cuter there, and these bottom two versions are not particularly good. I think pop art is fairly similar, but yeah, I think in general when it comes to restyling here, the ChatGPT version has done a better job. There is a spelling mistake on the left which isn't in the right, but besides that I think the restyling round right here goes to ChatGPT, so be aware of that if you want to use this model for that purpose. Now, another thing I've been curious about is mockups, and there's this one Kittle Flows template right here where they essentially had an input design. This is put together out of some text right here, but focus on some of the more complicated fonts like up here, Never Stop. The S is quite intricate, and then they've built out this flow system where they turn that design into different mockups. If we focus in on the S right here, it looks significantly different than in the original design. So this is one thing ChatGPT hasn't been very good at. If you want to create mockups with it, it makes changes to the design. Here the S looks different again. The circle on the 2020 is kind of getting lost as well. Whilst if you zoomed out, it's not that noticeable. It's not very accurate when it comes to this kind of thing. It looks cool if you're kind of zoomed out a large scale, but I think Nano Banana can do better. So what I'm going to do with this Kittle Flows template is I'll just select everything. I will hit Alt on my keyboard and then click and drag this over to the side, just so we can now change all of these smart boards to the Nano Banana model and then use the same prompts right here to compare if this model can do a better job at a fraction of the cost. So I'll go ahead and do that. Then I'll zoom out right here, draw a box around all of the smart boards, and then hit generate again. And there we go. I think you can see that the S now actually looks like the original. And how is it in this one? Yep, that looks pretty similar, or pretty much exactly the same as well. Actually, no, this little circle there, the number is messed up. So the tiniest bit of detail might not be carried over perfectly, but if you look at the first one, again, the S is perfect there and there. It's just, again, the two right here is kind of getting lost. But overall, I think it's a better job. If you look back at the original, yeah, that's looking very similar to some of these results right here, if not exactly the same. I think if it's the second step, right? If you do multiple steps of generating mockups, then some of the tiniest details might get lost. But overall, it's a lot better at adhering to the same exact kind of layouts and staying true to the original design. So it's definitely a step in the right direction and an improvement for a fraction of the time and cost. And you can even use it for free during that event. So really cool to see this in motion right here. And just going back to the original, I think you can see that none of these are really close to exactly what Nano Banana put out. They look high quality, but they're not accurate whatsoever. Another quick bonus tip for you, if you go to the templates section on the left right here, and then scroll down, you will see Kittle flows, and this holds over 100 Kittle flow templates. This will make it a lot easier for you to get started and to understand Kittle flows and to actually create some designs, scale them out without having to start from scratch. So we've got some Chrome text effects, we've got this text effect bundle, there's a bunch of mock-up templates as well. This is the one you just saw. We've got this black metal apparel one right here, but there's also some more t-shirt design specific stuff like this shirt maker, and we've got this print on demand template. I just played around with the tarot card design creator, which was pretty impressive. So a lot of stuff to test out right here. You can just change the start of the chain or the start of the flow and then quickly get a ton of new designs. You can get some inspiration as well. Now that you're an expert at creating AI t-shirt designs, there's only one important missing ingredient that you need to succeed, and that is knowing where to actually sell them. To help you out, I've created this video right here where I rank 17 print-on-demand websites from worst to best to show you which one has the most potential.